Fractured Time's emissary. The first bell of the school day rang as Elias walked through the bustling halls. He had no idea that, just minutes earlier, his ordinary life would be shattered forever. As he entered class, a blinding flash of light enveloped him, and the world around him seemed to slow down. Time stretched out like taffy in his hands as he struggled to understand what was happening. Suddenly, he found himself standing atop a hill overlooking a dense forest teeming with monstrous creatures unlike anything he had ever seen before. A terrifying roar echoed through the trees, and Elias's heart raced as he realized that he was not in his school anymore. His mind reeled from the sudden change, but he knew one thing for certain: he needed to find a way back home. As he ventured deeper into the forest, he encountered creatures that seemed to have evolved to fill every niche of this twisted new world. Some were beautiful and graceful, while others were grotesque and monstrous. In time, Elias began to learn how to control his powers, shifting between human form and various animal forms as he searched for a way back home. He discovered that some of these creatures had developed unique abilities that allowed them to traverse the world in ways he could only dream of. He wondered if one of these beasts might hold the key to restoring his ordinary life. Meanwhile, Agent Smith watched from the shadows as Elias stumbled through the forest, unaware of the danger lurking just beyond the trees. The organization he represented had been tracking Elias for weeks, and they were eager to exploit his powers for their own gain. They believed that by controlling him, they could unlock the secrets of time manipulation and reshape the world to their will. Agent Smith dispatched a team of agents to capture Elias and bring him to the organization's secret facility, where they could study his abilities in detail. As he followed Elias through the forest, Agent Smith couldn't help but marvel at the potential that lay within this ordinary-looking teenager. With a flick of a wrist, he could alter reality itself, an ability that could bring untold power and wealth to those who controlled it. Elias, meanwhile, continued his journey through the forest, growing stronger with each passing day. He began to uncover clues about the accident that had granted him these powers, leading him to believe that there might be someone else out there who could help him, Dr. Timekeeper. Rumors spoke of a brilliant scientist who had dedicated her life to understanding time manipulation and may have some insight into Elias's situation. As Elias pressed on, he found himself confronted by increasingly dangerous creatures. Some sought to eat him, while others seemed intent on testing his mettle. Each encounter left him stronger and more determined to return home. But with Agent Smith and his agents closing in, time was running out for Elias. Could he find Dr. Timekeeper in time, or would the organization succeed in capturing him? As the sun set on another day in this strange new world, Elias found himself face to face with a creature unlike any other. It was massive and terrifying, with glowing eyes that seemed to see right through him. As he stood before it, he felt a sudden surge of power coursing through his veins, a power born of fear and determination. With a roar, Elias transformed into a monstrous form unlike anything the creature had ever seen. It recoiled in shock as Elias took control of the situation, using his powers to manipulate time and outmaneuver the beast. As he stood victorious over its broken form, he felt a sense of triumph wash over him. He was becoming stronger, and he knew that he could survive in this world. But little did Elias know, Agent Smith had been watching from afar, observing his every move. He made a note of the creature Elias had defeated, knowing that it would be valuable to the organization. With a cold smile, he ordered his agents to redouble their efforts and capture Elias before he grew too powerful. Elias lay in the forest, exhausted but alive after defeating the monstrous beast. He looked around, still stunned by the events of the day. The forest was eerily silent except for the distant sounds of rustling leaves and a faint growl in the distance. His body ached from the transformation, and his mind raced with questions about his new powers and how they had come to be. "What have I done?" he muttered, still reeling from the destruction he'd caused. "How can I fix this?" Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled violently, and a group of shadowy figures emerged from the trees, weapons at the ready. Elias scrambled to his feet as Agent Smith stepped forward. "Greetings, Mr. Elias," the man said coldly. "We've been expecting you." Elias recognized the menace in Agent Smith's voice and knew he had no choice but to fight if he hoped to escape. He tensed, preparing for a battle that could mean life or death. The two faced off, each waiting for the other to make the first move. "You're going to regret crossing me," Agent Smith sneered. "We need your abilities, and we won't rest until you're in our hands." Elias gritted his teeth, determined not to let them win. He knew he couldn't rely on his human form against these armed men, so he closed his eyes, focused his mind, and allowed himself to transform once more. As a fierce predator, he lunged at Agent Smith, claws extended, ready to defend himself. The fight was brutal and intense, with neither side giving an inch. Elias used his newfound agility and strength to evade their attacks, while Agent Smith's agents closed in, surrounding him on all sides. He knew that if he couldn't find a way to escape, he would be outnumbered and overpowered. Suddenly, as they continued to trade blows, Elias felt a surge of energy coursing through his veins. Something within him shifted, and he found himself gaining new abilities. He focused on his surroundings, sensing the movements of Agent Smith's men, and using that knowledge to anticipate their attacks. As he fought, Elias realized something terrifying. He was growing stronger every second he spent in this form. It wasn't just his physical strength that increased. He also found himself more confident, more aware, and more in tune with the world around him. The realization hit him like a thunderbolt. He was no longer just Elias, the high school student who had been caught up in a mysterious accident. Now he was something else entirely, something powerful, dangerous, and capable of changing the course of history. With renewed determination, Elias fought on, dodging bullets, evading attacks, and striking back with ferocity. He could feel Agent Smith's frustration growing as his agents struggled to capture their prey. The man himself fought with a cunning fury, but Elias was no longer the weak student he had been before. As the battle raged on, Elias focused on one thought: survival. He knew that if he could outlast Agent Smith and his men, there might be a chance to learn more about his powers and find a way home. With every blow he struck and every attack he dodged, he inched closer to victory. Finally, as the sun began to set, Elias found an opening. He lunged at Agent Smith with all his strength, catching him off guard, and sending him sprawling into the underbrush. The remaining agents hesitated for a moment before fleeing, fearing their leader's wrath. Elias stood over the unconscious body of Agent Smith, panting heavily, blood dripping from his claws. He knew that he had survived for now, but he also knew that this was only the beginning of a long and treacherous journey. He would need to be vigilant, cunning, and strong if he hoped to make it through the challenges ahead and return home. As he limped back into the forest, Elias couldn't help but wonder what lay in store for him. He knew that his life had changed forever, and he wasn't sure he was ready for what came next. But one thing was certain: he would face whatever trials awaited him head-on, determined to survive and find a way back home. As the sun set on another day in this strange new world, Elias looked up at the sky with determination in his eyes. He knew that his journey had only just begun, but he was ready for whatever came next. Fractured Time's emissary Elias crouched behind a gnarled tree, panting heavily from the grueling battle against Agent Smith's men. The dense forest around him was alive with the sounds of creatures stalking their prey through the underbrush. As he caught his breath, Elias allowed himself a moment to reflect on what had just happened. He looked down at the unconscious bodies of the agents scattered across the clearing. They would surely wake up soon and likely return for retribution. The forest seemed unfamiliar, yet it held an eerie sense of familiarity, as if he had been here before. The trees towered above him, casting long shadows that danced across the ground like skeletal hands reaching out to touch him. As Elias stood up, he felt a sudden pang of longing for his old life, the safety and routine of school, the comfort of knowing what the future held. But now everything had changed. As he walked deeper into the forest, Elias stumbled upon a hidden grove bathed in moonlight. A single tree stood at its center, ancient and majestic. He approached it cautiously, feeling an odd sense of reverence for this strange place. As he reached out to touch the tree, it suddenly spoke, its voice echoing through his mind. "You have been given a great power, young one," it said, "but with that power comes a responsibility. You must learn to control it, or you will become as lost as these woods." Elias looked around him at the shadows creeping through the trees, feeling a chill run down his spine. He had no idea what he was doing, how to control this newfound power, or even why he had been chosen for such an incredible gift. All he knew was that he needed to find a way back home and figure out what happened to him. Suddenly, he heard the sound of twigs snapping behind him. His heart raced as he spun around, ready to face another threat, but there was nothing there, just the darkness of the forest swallowing him up again. He knew that he couldn't stay here forever. He had to keep moving and find answers. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, dancing shadows across the forest floor. The trees seemed to whisper secrets into Elias's ears as he trudged through the undergrowth, his senses heightened as he tried to pick up on any sign of danger. He had been moving for hours, seeking the hidden grove that might hold answers about his newfound powers and how to return to his ordinary life. The forest was a labyrinthine maze of towering trees, each one older than Elias could fathom, their gnarled roots reaching out like grasping hands from beneath the earth. Suddenly he caught movement in the corner of his eye. He whirled around, senses on high alert, but saw nothing. The forest seemed eerily still for a moment before the whispers started up again, guiding him deeper into its depths. As he continued, Elias came upon an ancient tree unlike any he had ever seen before. It stood tall and proud, its branches intertwined in a complex pattern, weaving together to form a canopy that blocked out most of the sunlight. Its bark was rough and gnarled, with strange symbols carved into it that seemed to glow faintly as Elias approached. He hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should touch the tree or not, but something deep within him compelled him to reach out and lay his hand upon its rough surface. As soon as he did, the tree shuddered and spoke in a voice like leaves rustling in the wind. "You seek answers?" it asked, its voice echoing through the forest. "I can help you find them, but at a cost." Elias frowned, trying to read the intentions of this mysterious being. "What do you want from me?" he asked cautiously. The tree's voice grew softer. "I require your aid in guarding this place, for it is home to secrets that could change the course of history." Elias hesitated again. He didn't know if he was ready to make such a commitment, but he knew that the answers he sought lay within this forest. After some thought, he agreed to help the tree and began patrolling its perimeter, watching for any signs of intruders or danger. As the night wore on, Elias' senses grew sharper. He could feel every movement in the forest, every creature that stirred beneath the cover of darkness. It was then that he heard it, a faint whispering sound coming from somewhere nearby. He strained to listen, trying to pinpoint its location, but it seemed to be coming from all around him at once. Suddenly a figure stepped out from behind one of the trees, its face hidden beneath a hooded cloak. "I have been watching you," it said softly, its voice tinged with malice. "You have powerful abilities, and I want them for my own." Elias' heart raced as he tried to decide what to do. He knew that if he gave in to this figure, they would use his powers to destroy the world, but he also knew that he needed help finding a way back home. In the end, he made his decision and charged at the hooded figure, transforming into a powerful beast as he did so. The two battled through the forest, neither gaining an advantage. Elias struggled to keep up with the figure's agility and cunning, but he refused to give up. He could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down upon him, urging him to protect his newfound powers at all costs. Finally, as the sun began to rise over the horizon, Elias managed to land a decisive blow, sending the hooded figure crashing to the ground. As he stood over it, panting and exhausted, he realized that this was just the beginning of his journey. He had many more challenges ahead of him, but he knew that he was ready to face them head-on, no matter what dangers lay in store for him. Fractured Time's emissary. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the forest. Elias stood guard atop a gnarled oak, scanning the treetops for any signs of movement. He had grown accustomed to his new life as a protector, but his heart still ached for the memories he'd lost during his transformation. He shifted his focus towards the ancient tree that lay hidden deep in the forest. The powerful being had become his sanctuary, offering him knowledge and guidance on how to control his powers. But now, danger lurked closer than ever before. The wind carried a distant sound, footsteps echoing through the woods. Elias tensed as he recognized the telltale signs of Agent Smith and his agents. The secret organization sought Elias' abilities for their own selfish purposes, and they would stop at nothing to capture him. With lightning-quick reflexes, he transformed into a swift owl, taking flight above the canopy to observe the intruders. They moved with precision and stealth, but the forest seemed to bend around them, revealing their location. Elias knew that if they reached the ancient tree, it would be catastrophic for both him and the world itself. He dove towards the ground, landing gracefully among a thicket of underbrush, then transformed into his human form, ready for battle. As he stepped out onto the forest floor, he noticed something odd about Agent Smith's approach. They were moving in pairs, each set consisting of one human and one creature, each more fearsome than the last. Elias steeled himself, knowing that this would not be an easy fight. He called upon the power of the ancient tree, drawing on its essence to enhance his own abilities. As he did so, a strange symbol appeared on his forearm, a mark of the bond between him and the tree, reminding him of the responsibility he bore to protect it. The first pair of attackers emerged from the shadows, snarling at Elias' approach. He knew better than to underestimate them. These beasts were unlike anything he had ever faced before. With a roar, they charged towards him, claws extended and eyes glowing with malice. Elias met their attack head-on, transforming into various creatures to counter each threat. He fought tirelessly, his every movement fueled by the bond between himself and the ancient tree. But as he battled, he couldn't shake the feeling that Agent Smith was always one step ahead, manipulating events in ways he couldn't comprehend. As the battle raged on, Elias caught sight of a hooded figure lurking in the distance. His heart raced as he recognized the danger. This was the one who had sought his powers before, and he would not rest until they were his. Elias knew that if he didn't defeat Agent Smith soon, all would be lost. With renewed determination, Elias fought on, drawing upon every ounce of strength the ancient tree had given him. He transformed into a fearsome creature, its power radiating from every pore as it tore through the ranks of the intruders. As he battled, the hooded figure stood still, watching with cold indifference. But Elias refused to let fear dictate his actions. He fought with everything he had, determined to protect the ancient tree and the world that relied on its power. And as the last of Agent Smith's agents lay defeated at his feet, Elias knew that he had won a victory. But the war was far from over. The hooded figure stepped forward, revealing itself to be none other than Dr. Timekeeper, the scientist who had studied time manipulation for years and held the key to understanding Elias' accident. With a sinister smile, she offered him a deal: join her, and together they could harness the power of the ancient tree to reshape reality according to their desires. But Elias knew better than to trust her. He had learned that power came with responsibility, and he would never let greed or ambition cloud his judgment. With a defiant roar, he refused her offer, vowing to protect the ancient tree and its secrets at all costs. As Dr. Timekeeper disappeared into the darkness, Elias knew that this was only the beginning. The danger to the world had grown exponentially, but he would not falter. He would stand as a guardian, a beacon of hope for humanity amidst the chaos of the ever-changing world. And though the path before him was fraught with peril, Elias knew that he would face it head-on, fueled by the bond between himself and the ancient tree. The moon cast a silvery glow over the ancient forest as Elias shifted through the shadows, listening intently for any sign of intruders. The air was thick with tension, and each rustling leaf seemed to carry the weight of the world on its back. He had been on guard for days, ever since Dr. Timekeeper offered her deal. As he moved stealthily along a branch, he heard a low growl coming from below. With his senses heightened, Elias quickly transformed into a swift and agile fox to investigate the source of the sound. He found himself face to face with a pack of beasts that seemed more monstrous than any he had ever encountered before. Their eyes glowed with an eerie light, and their snarling mouths dripped venom. Elias knew they were the result of a failed experiment gone wrong, unleashed upon the world by those who sought to exploit his powers for their own gain. He fought valiantly, shifting between various forms to outmaneuver the beasts and protect the forest from further destruction. But the creatures were relentless, driven by an insatiable hunger that seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment. As the battle raged on, Elias felt a strange presence nearby. He turned to see Agent Smith and his agents closing in on him, their eyes filled with greed. They had tracked him down, intent on capturing him for their own nefarious purposes. But Elias was not one to be taken easily. Shifting into a powerful bear, he charged at the agents, sending them tumbling back with a roar that echoed through the forest. The battle between man and monster continued, each side refusing to yield. As dawn broke, Elias found himself alone in the clearing, the beasts vanquished and Agent Smith nowhere to be seen. He looked up at the ancient tree, its gnarled branches reaching towards the heavens like bony fingers. The tree seemed to call out to him, promising answers if only he would listen. But as Elias approached, he felt a strange sensation wash over him. A hooded figure emerged from the shadows, revealing Dr. Timekeeper once more. She offered him a deal, one that would change everything. Elias hesitated, torn between his duty to protect the ancient tree and the promise of understanding the accident that granted him these powers, but in the end he knew what he must do. He refused her offer, vowing to continue his eternal vigil as the emissary of fractured time. Fractured Time's emissary Elias stood atop a gnarled oak, gazing out over the vast expanse of forest. He had grown accustomed to his new life as an eternal protector of this hidden grove and its ancient tree. His days were filled with patrolling the woods, fending off the monstrous beasts that lurked within, and keeping watch for any sign of Agent Smith or his agents seeking to capture him. A sudden rustling caught Elias' attention, a sound out of place in this silent forest. He crouched low, muscles tensed as he scanned the foliage below for threats. A dark figure emerged from the shadows, moving swiftly and silently through the trees. Elias leapt from his perch, landing lightly on the soft earth as he transformed into his cat form. The figure seemed to have sensed his presence, pausing in its approach. Elias crept closer, senses heightened, heart pounding in his chest. As the figure came into view, Elias' eyes widened in shock. It was a woman, cloaked and hooded, her features obscured by shadows. She reached out a hand, revealing an object that glimmered with an eerie light. "I have been watching you," she whispered, her voice like the wind rustling through the leaves. "I offer you an alliance." Elias hesitated, unsure if he could trust this stranger, but as he looked into her eyes, he saw a flicker of desperation and determination that echoed his own feelings. He knew what it was to be hunted, to be alone in a world that no longer made sense. "What do you want from me?" Elias asked, keeping his voice low and steady. The woman reached into her cloak, producing a small, intricately carved pendant. "I am Dr. Timekeeper," she said, offering the pendant to him. "I have been studying time manipulation for years, and I believe your powers hold the key to unlocking its secrets." Elias considered her offer, weighing the risks against the potential rewards. If he could understand his abilities better, maybe he could find a way to return to his old life, or at least control the chaos that had come with them. "I will think on it," Elias said finally. "But I won't make any promises." The woman nodded and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Elias alone once more in the forest. He knew he would have to be careful. Agent Smith was always watching, waiting for an opportunity to strike. But the offer of understanding his powers was tempting, and he couldn't help but wonder if joining forces with Dr. Timekeeper might be the key to regaining control over his new life. As Elias returned to his post atop the gnarled oak, he vowed to remain vigilant, ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. He would protect the ancient tree and its secrets, no matter the cost. Elias stood on the edge of a dense forest, the ancient tree looming in the distance. The weight of his new powers and responsibilities pressed heavily on him. He glanced back at Zara and Victor, who were conversing with Dr. Timekeeper near the grove's entrance. Elias could feel Agent Smith lurking nearby, waiting for an opportunity to strike. As he approached the ancient tree, the air seemed to crackle with energy. Carved into its bark were strange symbols that made his heart race. He reached out tentatively, and his fingers traced over one of the symbols. A burst of light engulfed him, and he was suddenly surrounded by an army of beasts. A roar echoed through the forest as the creatures attacked. Elias transformed into various creatures in a desperate attempt to fend them off, but they were relentless. He knew that if he didn't find a way to stop them, the grove would be destroyed, and the ancient tree along with it. Gathering his wits, Elias remembered Dr. Timekeeper's words about controlling time. Concentrating, he reached out with his powers, and found himself standing on a different day, when the creatures were still mere shadows in the forest. He watched as they emerged from the darkness and approached the ancient tree. their snarling forms growing ever closer. This time, Elias was prepared for them. As they lunged at him, he transformed into a bird and soared above the chaos, watching the battle play out below. He could see Agent Smith and his agents trying to navigate through the forest, avoiding the monstrous beasts that now roamed freely. Elias descended from the sky, landing gracefully next to Zara and Victor. "We have to stop these creatures," he said, his voice echoing with determination. The three of them faced the forest, knowing they had a fight on their hands. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they found themselves surrounded by an endless sea of beasts. They fought fiercely, transforming into various creatures to outmaneuver their attackers. Elias could feel his powers growing stronger with each passing moment, but so too did the danger around them. Finally, they reached the heart of the forest, where the ancient tree stood proudly. As they approached, Agent Smith emerged from the shadows, a wicked grin on his face. "I've been waiting for you," he said, his eyes glinting with malice. A battle ensued with Elias, Zara, and Victor fighting against Agent Smith and his agents. The beasts seemed to take notice of their struggle, surrounding the group in a whirlwind of chaos. Elias could feel the weight of the world on his shoulders, the burden of being humanity's last hope. With a surge of power, Elias transformed into a massive beast, towering over Agent Smith and his agents. "This ends now," he said, his voice shaking the earth beneath them. The beasts around them fell silent, watching as the final confrontation took place. Elias and Agent Smith fought with all their might, neither willing to back down. As they clashed, Elias could feel time seeming to slow around him. He had control over it now, a gift and a curse. He knew that if this fight continued, the entire timeline would be at risk. In a moment of clarity, Elias made his decision. "Enough," he said, his voice filled with determination. With a final surge of power, he transformed back into his human form, and the world around him snapped back to normal. He stood before Agent Smith, who lay defeated and broken on the ground. The beasts retreated, their purpose fulfilled. Elias turned to Zara and Victor, who looked at him with a mixture of awe and gratitude. "We did it," he said, a sense of relief washing over him. They had saved the grove and perhaps the world from destruction. As they returned to the hidden grove, Dr. Timekeeper emerged from the shadows. "I see you've made a decision," she said, her eyes filled with curiosity. Elias nodded, knowing that he would have to make many more in the days to come. Fractured Time's emissary Elias stood tall in his transformed form, staring intently into the dense forest before him. The air was thick with tension and anticipation. His companions, Zara and Victor, flanked him on either side. They had traveled deep into the heart of the ancient forest, seeking answers and allies in their quest to survive the ever-changing world filled with dangerous beasts. As they ventured further, the trees closed in around them, casting eerie shadows over their path. The atmosphere was oppressive, a constant reminder of the danger lurking just beyond sight. Elias could sense the presence of other creatures nearby, hidden among the foliage and ready to strike at any moment. Victor's voice broke the silence. "We need to find the ancient tree before nightfall. It's said that answers await us there." Zara nodded in agreement, her eyes scanning the shadows for any signs of movement. Elias couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. A low growl echoed through the forest, causing all three of them to whirl around frantically. As the sound grew louder and closer, a massive beast emerged from the undergrowth, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "Beasts like this one have become more common since the accident," Elias growled, his body tensing as he prepared to transform. "I'll deal with it." Zara and Victor exchanged a nervous glance before Zara spoke up. "We should stick together. I've faced beasts like that before. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Elias snapped back, his frustration bubbling to the surface. "This isn't just a game for me." The beast lunged at them, its claws slashing through the air as it closed the distance between them. Zara and Victor fought valiantly, their blades flashing in the dim light. Elias transformed into a massive bird of prey, soaring above the fray to take aim at the beast's vulnerable underbelly. With a swift dive, he struck the creature, his talon sinking deep into its flesh. The beast roared in pain, flailing wildly as it crashed to the ground. Elias landed gracefully beside it, his eyes locked on the wounded animal. "I'm not some monster," he said softly, his voice heavy with emotion. I just want my life back. Zara approached him cautiously, her eyes filled with concern. We're in this together, she offered gently, extending a hand to help him return to human form. Elias hesitated before taking her hand, feeling the familiar warmth of his own skin under his fingers. As he stood once again as a man, the weight of his new life bore down on him more heavily than ever before. We should move on, Victor urged, breaking the tense silence that had fallen over the group. The ancient tree can't be far now. With renewed determination, they pushed deeper into the forest, their steps echoing ominously through the trees. As the sun began to set, the shadows grew longer and more sinister. The air seemed thick with the scent of danger. Suddenly, a hooded figure stepped out from behind a tree, her face obscured by a cowl. "I've been watching you," she said, her voice cold and menacing. "You have powers that I desire." Elias tensed, his hand instinctively moving towards the pendant hanging around his neck. "Stay back," he warned, his voice low and threatening. Agent Smith stepped from the shadows behind the hooded figure, his eyes narrowing as he took in the scene before him. "I've been looking for you," he said, a sinister smile spreading across his face. "Your abilities are too valuable to be wasted on someone like you." The air around them crackled with tension, the ground trembling beneath their feet as an army of beasts burst forth from the underbrush, snarling and snapping at the intruders. Elias felt a surge of fear and anger wash over him as he transformed once more, his body swelling and changing to face the threat before them. "We won't let you take control," Zara growled, her blade flashing in the dim light as she fought alongside Elias. Victor retreated slightly, assessing the situation before joining the fray, his cunning mind working furiously to come up with a plan. Together, they battled the army of beasts, their movements fluid and precise as they danced around each other, seeking weaknesses and openings. Elias could sense the presence of Agent Smith among the beasts, guiding them like a master puppeteer. With a roar, he transformed into a massive beast, towering over the others as he charged towards Agent Smith. The hooded figure retreated, her eyes wide with fear as she watched the creature bear down on her. Elias felt a surge of power coursing through his veins, his body rippling with muscle and fury as he prepared to strike. But just as he was about to attack, Victor stepped in front of him, holding up his hands in surrender. "We don't have to do this," he said, his voice steady and calm despite the chaos around them. "There has to be another way." Elias hesitated, feeling a strange mixture of emotions welling up inside him. He knew that Victor was right, but something deep within him yearned for vengeance. As they stood there, locked in each other's gaze, a strange sense of understanding passed between them. "We will find another way," Elias growled, transforming back into his human form as the beasts around them faded away. He looked at Zara and Victor with newfound determination. "Together, we can face whatever comes our way." Episode 10. In the dense forest, Elias, Zara, and Victor huddled around a roaring campfire, their breaths visible in the cold air. The ancient tree stood tall and majestic behind them, its gnarled branches reaching towards the sky. A strange energy seemed to emanate from it, pulsing with an eerie glow that danced on the leaves. Victor's gaze flicked to the pendant around Elias's neck, his eyes narrowed in calculation. "We can't stay here for long," he said, breaking the silence. "Agent Smith will be closing in soon." Zara looked at him with cold determination. "Then we should make our move," she replied, her voice hardened by years of struggle. Elias sighed, his eyes heavy with fatigue and worry. "I don't want to fight anymore," he confessed. "I just want my life back." Victor's smile was cold. "You hold the key to our survival, Elias. It's not a gift, it's a responsibility." In the distance, a low growl echoed through the forest. Elias tensed, his eyes scanning their surroundings for any sign of danger. The others followed suit, their hearts racing as they braced themselves for whatever lurked in the darkness. As they prepared to set out, Zara noticed something peculiar on the ancient tree's bark, strange symbols that seemed familiar, but she couldn't quite place them. She traced her fingers over them, feeling a strange sensation course through her body as if the symbols resonated with some hidden power. "What is this?" she murmured, her eyes wide with curiosity. Elias stepped closer to inspect, his gaze focused on the intricate carvings. "I've never seen anything like it," he admitted. Suddenly, the forest seemed to come alive as a horde of monstrous beasts burst forth from the undergrowth, their eyes glowing with a sickly green light. Elias reacted instinctively, transforming into a powerful creature of flight, and Fury a bird of prey with razor-sharp talons and fiery eyes. The others stood their ground, readying themselves for the fight ahead. Zara transformed as well, her body elongating and hardening into a formidable warrior made of living shadow. Victor, however, remained human, his mind racing as he considered their options. In the heart of the forest, they fought a desperate battle against the army of beasts, each one more monstrous than the last. They struck with precision and ferocity, every blow a testament to their survival instincts. As the sun dipped below the horizon, they finally managed to drive back the horde, panting and battered but alive. Elias shifted back to his human form, his eyes glazed over as he struggled to regain control of his powers. Zara approached him cautiously. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice trembling with concern. Elias shook his head, still struggling to catch his breath. "I don't know. I think I might have lost some of it." Victor stepped forward, his eyes narrowed as he assessed their situation. "We need to find a way to restore your powers," he said urgently, and fast. As they continued their journey, the weight of their predicament hung heavy on their shoulders. They knew that Agent Smith and his agents would be closing in soon, and they had no idea what other dangers awaited them in the ancient forest. But they were determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united by a single goal: to survive. As they pressed deeper into the heart of the forest, they stumbled upon a hidden grove that seemed untouched by time. In its center stood another ancient tree, its bark adorned with the same strange symbols they had seen on the first tree. Elias approached the tree cautiously, his eyes filled with hope and fear. "I think this might be our answer," he murmured. Zara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the determination that burned within them both. "We'll find a way," she replied, her voice steady and unwavering. Victor watched them from a distance, his mind racing as he considered their options. He knew that time was running out, but he also knew that they were closer than ever to unlocking the secrets of Elias' powers, and he would stop at nothing to claim them for himself. The end of the night drew near as the moon cast eerie shadows across the grove. The ancient tree seemed to pulse with a strange energy, calling out to Elias in a whisper that only he could hear. He felt his powers stirring within him, responding to the call of the tree and its mysterious symbols. As he reached out to touch the bark, something clicked inside of him, a connection formed between them, binding their fates together forever. The energy coursed through him like wildfire, filling him with a sense of purpose that he had never felt before. With renewed vigor, they set out to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that they were no longer alone in their struggle. Together, they would find a way to restore Elias' powers and secure their place among the last vestiges of humanity. But unbeknownst to them, danger lurked in the shadows. Agent Smith was closing in, determined to claim the power he believed Elias held for his own nefarious purposes. And as the first light of dawn broke over the ancient forest, they found themselves standing at the edge of a cliff, faced with a choice that would forever change their lives. With Agent Smith and his army of beasts closing in, they knew that they had no other choice. They must make a stand or risk losing everything they held dear. And as they prepared to face the ultimate test, they were reminded once again that in this ever-changing world, survival was not just about strength, but also about determination and unity. Fractured Time's emissary, Elias, peered into the dense forest ahead, his eyes narrowing as he felt the presence of danger lurking within the shadows. Zara, by his side, gripped her sword tightly, her expression determined as she scanned their surroundings. Victor, ever the politician, sought to calm Elias' nerves. "We can handle this, old chap. We've faced greater threats before." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the air grew colder and darker. The once vibrant foliage appeared twisted and malevolent as they caught glimpses of movement out of the corner of their eyes. Elias' heart raced as he felt the familiar sting of time manipulation coursing through his veins, urging him to retreat and regroup. But he knew better than to give in to fear. He needed to find a way to return to his normal life, and that meant facing these challenges head-on. Suddenly, a chorus of growls echoed from all sides as a horde of beasts emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with hunger. The group quickly formed a defensive circle, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As the battle ensued, Zara's fierce warrior instincts kicked in, striking down beasts left and right with her sword, while Victor deftly dodged and countered attacks with his staff. Elias struggled to keep up, his powers still raw and unrefined. He could feel the weight of every blow, but he refused to let fear control him. In a moment of clarity, Elias reached out with his powers, attempting to manipulate time and give himself an advantage in combat. The world around them seemed to bend and twist as he focused on the beasts before him, slowing their movements just enough to land a devastating blow that sent them crashing to the ground. With each passing moment, Elias' powers grew stronger, allowing him to more effectively defend himself and his friends. The tide of battle began to turn in their favor as they fought their way through the horde, eventually reaching the heart of the forest where the ancient tree awaited them. Exhausted and battered, the group collapsed near the tree, catching their breaths as they gazed upon its gnarled roots and strange symbols carved into its bark. Elias felt a renewed sense of purpose wash over him, knowing that this was the key to unlocking his powers and returning to normalcy. As they rested, Agent Smith's voice echoed through the forest, "I will find you, boy. I will take what is mine." The group knew their respite would be short-lived as they steeled themselves for the battles that lay ahead. With renewed determination, Elias reached out to Dr. Timekeeper, seeking answers and guidance in this strange new world he found himself trapped within. But little did they know Agent Smith had been watching, waiting for an opportunity to strike. As the group prepared to leave the safety of the ancient tree, they were met with a force unlike any they had ever faced before, an army of beasts led by none other than their relentless pursuer, Agent Smith himself. The stage was set for a final showdown that would test the limits of their powers and their resolve. Episode 12, Fractured Roots. In the heart of the forest, Elias sat against the ancient tree's trunk, panting heavily from their recent battle with the beasts. Zara knelt beside him, her eyes scanning their surroundings warily. Victor stood at a distance, smirking, his mind already planning his next move. "I never thought I'd find myself in this place," Elias murmured, looking up at the strange symbols carved into the tree's bark. "What is it?" Zara approached, her eyes narrowing as she examined the carvings. "It appears to be an ancient language," she said slowly. "I can't quite decipher it, but I believe these symbols hold power." "And what if they do?" Victor asked, stepping closer. "Could they enhance our abilities, or even grant us new ones?" Elias looked at him coldly. "We don't know that. We should tread carefully." Agent Smith watched from the shadows, his eyes glinting with greed as he observed their conversation. He had sent several agents to infiltrate the ancient grove, but none returned. He knew these symbols held power, and was determined to claim it for himself. "You're right," Zara said thoughtfully. "We should gather our strength first, then return here to study the tree." Victor nodded slyly. "I agree. But I have a feeling that time is running out. Agent Smith won't hesitate to send more men after us." As they discussed their next move, Elias felt the familiar tug of his powers, reminding him that he was not just a simple scholar anymore, he was something more. He couldn't shake off the feeling that there was something else waiting for them in this ancient grove, a truth hidden within the heart of the forest. Suddenly, a loud crashing sound echoed through the trees, causing Elias to freeze. Zara and Victor turned to face the direction of the noise, their faces hardening as they saw Agent Smith's army approaching. "We don't have much time," Zara growled. "We need to prepare." Elias stood, clutching at his pendant around his neck as he felt a surge of power course through him. He knew that if they were going to survive this, they needed every advantage they could get. As the army drew nearer, Elias closed his eyes and focused on the tree, feeling its ancient energy pulsating beneath his touch. Fractured Time's emissary, the air around the ancient tree crackled with energy as Elias and Zara stood their ground against Agent Smith's army. The beasts they had encountered before swarmed around them, growling and snarling, but these creatures were larger, more vicious, and seemed to move with unnatural speed. Zara gritted her teeth, gripping her sword tightly as the monstrous horde closed in on them. "We can't hold them off for long," she growled. Elias nodded grimly, his eyes scanning the army of beasts before him. Suddenly, He felt a surge of power coursing through him. The symbols carved into the ancient tree seemed to pulse with life, sending tendrils of energy flowing towards him. He could feel it entering his body, filling him with an indescribable strength and focus. Elias, Zara called out as he began to glow with a faint light. What's happening? He glanced at her. A look of determination itched on his face. I think this is the power we've been seeking. As he spoke, the energy within him surged once more, and Elias felt himself transforming. His body elongated and hardened, scales covering his skin as powerful wings sprouted from his back. He looked down at himself, eyes wide with shock and awe. Zara stared in amazement as the new creature stood before her. What have you become? She breathed. Elias took a deep breath, feeling more powerful than he had ever been in his life. I don't know, he admitted, but I think we might just be able to turn this tide. Zara nodded resolutely, gripping her sword tightly as the battle raged around them. Together they charged into Agent Smith's army, using their newfound abilities to mow down the monstrous horde before them. The power of the ancient tree seemed to flow through them, granting them strength and speed beyond anything they had ever known. As the battle reached its climax, Elias found himself facing Agent Smith, who stood atop a massive beast sneering down at him. You think this will save you? He shouted, laughing cruelly. Elias felt his rage boiling over as he launched himself into the air, soaring towards Smith. He could feel the power of the ancient tree coursing through him, and he knew that he would not be defeated so easily. With a cry, he slammed into Smith, sending them both tumbling to the ground in a shower of sparks and debris. The two warriors struggled, each trying to gain the upper hand as they fought amidst the chaos of the battlefield. Elias could feel Smith's power, but he knew that he had been granted something even greater, the power of the ancient tree, and with it, the will to protect humanity. As the last beast fell and silence descended over the battlefield, Elias looked around at the wreckage. Zara stood nearby, her sword still dripping with blood. Are we okay? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Elias nodded, his gaze fixed on Agent Smith's unconscious form. For now, he said grimly, but I fear this is far from over. Together, they stood guard over the defeated army of beasts, knowing that their battle was far from won. Elias could feel the power of the ancient tree coursing through him, and he knew that he would need every ounce of it if he hoped to survive what lay ahead. As darkness fell over the forest, he took a deep breath, determined to protect those around him no matter the cost. Location: Heart of the Forest characters: Elias, Zara, Agent Smith, unconscious, Doc. Timekeeper off screen. As Elias and Zara stood watch over the defeated army of beasts, their hearts raced with adrenaline and exhaustion. The ancient tree loomed in front of them, its symbols shimmering under the moonlight. They exchanged a look of relief, knowing they had survived another day against impossible odds. Zara, Elias whispered, I feel different. The warrior glanced at him, her eyes narrowed as she took stock of his altered form. You've grown stronger, she said, studying the new scales that covered his body and the wings sprouting from his back. But I think this may have been more than just a transformation. I can sense the power within the tree, Elias admitted, feeling the ancient energy resonating through him. It's as if it's trying to tell me something, or show me something. Zara nodded solemnly. This is the heart of our world. I believe that the Ancient Ones left us this power as a means to protect ourselves from those who wish to destroy humanity. Elias hesitated, his mind racing with thoughts of the secret organization and Agent Smith's intentions for him. We need help if we are to stand against them, he said, and I think I know someone who can provide it. Dr. Timekeeper? Zara asked warily, recalling their earlier encounter with the scientist. Elias nodded. I believe she may have the knowledge necessary to understand what happened to me and how we can use this power to our advantage, he explained. Zara considered his words carefully before nodding in agreement. Very well. We'll find her, but be cautious. I don't trust her entirely, and I fear she may have secrets of her own. I understand, Elias replied, gripping the pendant around his neck. He could feel its power pulsing within him, sensing that it too held an ancient energy that might hold answers to their questions. Let's find her together, Zara. We need all the allies we can get if we are to survive. As they ventured deeper into the forest, following a faint trail of strange symbols carved into the bark of ancient trees, Elias and Zara found themselves confronted by Agent Smith, who had somehow recovered from their earlier battle. He stood atop a massive beast, his eyes blazing with malice as he surveyed his defeated army. "I knew you couldn't resist," Agent Smith sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "You sought power and now you have it. But you will not keep it for long." Elias stood tall, feeling the power of the ancient tree coursing through him. He transformed once more, his scales shimmering in the moonlight as he spread his wings. "I won't let you take this away from us," he declared, ready to face Agent Smith one more time. Zara stepped forward, her eyes blazing with determination. "You underestimate our resolve," she growled, drawing her sword and preparing to engage the rogue agent. Fractured Time's emissary Elias, Zara, and Victor found themselves in a dense forest, the air thick with tension. The memory of their recent battle still fresh, they cautiously continued along a path marked by strange symbols etched into ancient trees. The day grew dimmer as they ventured deeper into the heart of the forest. Beasts roamed the land, snarling and growling at their presence. They moved silently, weaving through the shadows in search of answers about the ancient tree and its connection to the symbols that adorned it. As twilight fell, they stumbled upon a hidden grove. In its center stood a massive gnarled tree unlike any they had seen before, its bark covered in intricate symbols. Elias felt an energy resonating from the tree, pulling him closer as if drawn by some unseen force. "This must be it," he said, taking a step forward. "The ancient tree we've heard so much about." Zara approached cautiously, her hand on the hilt of her sword. "I don't trust anything that's led us this far," she muttered under her breath. Victor eyed the tree with a calculating glint in his eyes. "If we can harness its power, we could ensure our survival and gain an edge against Smith," he suggested slyly. Elias hesitated, sensing Zara's unease. He felt drawn to the tree but couldn't ignore her concerns. "We should be careful," he warned. "This tree is powerful, and its secrets are dangerous." They spent the night in the grove, discussing their options and sharing stories around a small fire. As morning approached, Elias decided they needed more information before approaching the tree. He suggested seeking out Dr. Timekeeper, who might hold the key to understanding the Ancient Ones and their connection to the tree. "I know her location," Victor said suddenly. "She's been hiding somewhere in this forest." Zara raised an eyebrow at his sudden helpfulness. "What makes you think she'd help us?" Victor shrugged nonchalantly. "We have something she wants. If we can offer her a deal, she might be willing to share what she knows about the tree and the symbols." Episode 16, The Heart of the Forest. The sun had long since dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the dense forest floor as Elias, Zara, and Victor navigated their way deeper into its depths. The ancient symbols etched in the trees seemed to flicker with an otherworldly energy, illuminating their path as they approached the heart of the forest. "We should be cautious," Elias warned, his eyes scanning the shadows for any signs of danger. "I can sense a presence here, something powerful." Zara nodded solemnly, her hand resting on the hilt of her sword. "I'll keep an eye out while you and Victor speak with Dr. Timekeeper." "I don't trust him." Victor shrugged off Zara's concerns as they neared a massive gnarled tree unlike any they had seen before. The symbols carved into its bark seemed to pulse with a strange, almost alive energy. "This must be the one Dr. Timekeeper spoke of," Victor said, his eyes gleaming with excitement. As Elias reached for the pendant around his neck, he felt a sudden jolt of energy surge through him, causing him to stumble backward. The pendant seemed to glow brighter than ever before, its surface crackling with electricity. "Elias!" Zara cried out, her eyes widening in concern as she rushed over to help him. "What's happening?" Elias struggled to regain his footing, his senses swirling as the world around him seemed to distort and shift. He could feel a growing pressure inside of him, a powerful energy that threatened to burst forth at any moment. "I don't know," Elias gasped, clutching at his chest as he tried to regain control. "Something is happening. I can feel it." Victor stepped closer, eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about, boy? This is our chance, our ticket out of this mess. Let's not waste it." Elias glared at Victor, a newfound determination burning in his eyes. I won't let you use me, he growled. This power isn't yours to claim. Before either could react, there came a sudden rustling in the underbrush behind them. The shadows seemed to writhe and twist as an army of monstrous beasts emerged from the darkness, their eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Looks like we have company, Zara grumbled, drawing her sword and stepping between Elias and the approaching horde. Come on, let's show them what we're made of. As they fought, Elias struggled to control his powers, feeling a growing pressure building within him, as he tried to hold back the tide of creatures threatening to overwhelm them. He could feel it calling out to him, urging him to unleash the power buried deep within him, a power that would allow him to fight against these beasts like never before. But Elias knew that once he let go, there would be no turning back. He would become something other. Something that could destroy as easily as it could create. And yet, the thought of standing idly by while his friends were torn apart was unbearable. With a final, desperate cry, Elias surrendered to the power coursing through him. The world around him seemed to shatter as he transformed into a creature of raw, untamed energy, his body growing in size and strength as he prepared to face down the horde. Elias, Zara cried out, her eyes wide with disbelief as she watched her friend transform before her very eyes. What have you done? I had no choice, Elias growled, his newfound power radiating off of him like a living flame. If I didn't do this, we would all be dead. With a battle cry, he charged into the fray, his new form striking fear into the hearts of the monstrous beasts that dared to stand against him. The creatures recoiled at his touch, their bodies sizzling and smoking as they were consumed by the energy radiating from Elias' body. As the battle raged on, Zara fought alongside him, her sword slicing through the monsters like butter. Victor watched in awe, realizing that perhaps this boy was more than just a pawn in his grand scheme. Perhaps he held the key to saving humanity after all. But even as they fought, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something darker still lay hidden within him, a darkness that threatened to consume them all if he wasn't careful. He would have to be vigilant, watchful, lest the power coursing through his veins prove too much for even him to handle. Fractured Time's emissary. As the sun began to rise over the dense forest, Elias awoke on a mossy ground beside the ancient tree. His body felt heavy and strange, a mix of his own humanity and the raw energy coursing through him. Zara and Victor were nowhere in sight, but he could sense their presence nearby. Elias called out Zara, her voice echoing through the forest. Are you all right? Elias managed to stand and turn towards her. He felt different, stronger, faster, his senses heightened. But there was also a darker undercurrent that he couldn't shake off. I think so, Elias replied, his voice echoing in the forest. What happened? Zara walked towards him, looking concerned. You were fighting some kind of beast when I arrived. It was intense, but you seemed to handle it well. Elias looked down at his hands, still unsure about what had transpired during the battle. I don't remember much, he admitted. It feels like something took over me. Victor stepped out from behind a tree, smirking. If you can't handle yourself against simple beasts, maybe we should reconsider our plans. His eyes flicked towards the pendant around Elias' neck. Elias clenched his fists, feeling the energy surging through him. I won't let anything happen to us, he said firmly. We need each other to survive in this world. Zara looked at Victor before addressing Elias. Maybe you should rest, she suggested. We have a long journey ahead of us, and we don't know what lies ahead. Elias nodded, sitting down beside the tree and closing his eyes. He could feel the energy within him, pulsating in time with his heartbeat. As he rested, memories began to surface, memories of Agent Smith and his agents tracking them, their ominous presence lurking just beyond sight. Elias opened his eyes and looked at Zara and Victor, who were discussing something quietly. We should move, Elias said, standing up abruptly. They're still out there. Zara nodded, grabbing her sword. Let's go, she said, heading deeper into the forest. Victor followed close behind, a determined expression on his face. As they ventured further into the dense forest, they found themselves confronted by a sea of beasts, hulking creatures with razor-sharp claws and glowing eyes. They charged at Elias, Zara, and Victor, roaring menacingly as they closed in. This isn't natural, Zara said, slashing through the first wave of beasts. Something is guiding them. Elias felt a surge of energy within him, his body responding to the threat. He raised his hands and focused on the beasts, manipulating time in an attempt to give himself and his allies an advantage. The world seemed to slow down around him as he moved faster than ever before, dodging attacks and countering with precision strikes. Victor watched in awe as Elias battled the creatures, but he couldn't shake off a feeling of unease. "We need to get out of here," he said to Zara. "This is dangerous." Zara nodded, focusing on fighting her own battles while keeping an eye on Victor's retreat. As they pushed deeper into the forest, they found themselves cornered by the beasts. Elias felt a darker power within him rising, a power that threatened to consume him and those around him. "Elias," Zara called out, her voice desperate. "Snap out of it." Elias shook his head, trying to regain control over himself. He could feel the darkness threatening to engulf him, but he refused to let it win. With a final surge of energy, he focused on the beasts and unleashed a burst of raw power that sent them flying back, leaving him and his allies standing victorious amidst the destruction. Zara approached Elias, concern etched across her face. "What happened?" she asked. Elias looked down at himself, his body trembling from the strain of controlling the energy within him. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I can feel it growing stronger." Victor stepped forward, looking at Elias with a newfound respect. "Perhaps we should find Dr. Timekeeper after all," he said quietly. "She might be able to help you control this power." Elias looked around at the destruction they had caused, the beasts lying lifeless on the ground, their bodies twisted and broken. He felt a sense of sadness wash over him as he realized what he was becoming, not just a student looking for answers, but a weapon capable of destroying everything in his path. "Let's go," Elias said, starting towards the heart of the forest once more. "We have a long journey ahead of us." Elias stumbled through the dense underbrush, his heart pounding in his chest. The forest around him was a chaotic maze of trees and tangled roots that seemed to twist together like serpents. He felt Zara's hand on his shoulder, offering support as they moved forward, their footsteps echoing softly through the desolate woods. "Elias," she whispered, "we need to find a way to control your powers. They're changing you." He glanced at her, her fierce eyes piercing into him. He knew she was right, but he didn't know how to stop it. The transformation was overwhelming, and each time he used his abilities, the darkness inside of him grew stronger. "I know," he sighed, "but I don't know what else to do." Suddenly, they heard a rustling in the bushes up ahead. Zara tightened her grip on Elias' arm and whispered, "Be ready." The pair moved cautiously toward the noise, their senses heightened as they searched for any sign of danger. As they emerged from the undergrowth, they came face to face with a monstrous beast, a creature that seemed to defy description. Its body was twisted and misshapen, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Elias felt his heart race as he stared at the creature. He knew it was one of the beasts they had been fighting, but this one seemed different, stronger, more dangerous. Zara stepped forward, her sword drawn and ready. "Stay behind me," she ordered Elias, her voice filled with determination. Elias nodded, his eyes never leaving the beast. He knew he couldn't let Zara face this creature alone. As the battle began, he reached deep within himself, searching for the power to protect them both. As he fought, Elias could feel the darkness growing stronger. It was like a storm raging inside of him, threatening to consume him completely. He knew that if he let it take over, he would become the very thing he was fighting against. Suddenly, Zara cried out in pain as she fell to the ground, a wound on her arm gushing blood. Elias rushed to her side, his heart racing with fear and anger. He couldn't lose her now, not after everything they had been through. He reached deep within himself, summoning every ounce of power he could find. The darkness surged forward, enveloping him in its embrace as he transformed into a creature far more powerful than anything he had ever faced before. The beast roared in fear as it saw the new threat before it. Elias felt a strange sense of satisfaction as he stared down the creature, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "You underestimated me," he growled, his voice deep and powerful. The beast lunged at him, but Elias was too fast. With a swift movement, he dodged its attack and countered with a strike of his own that sent the creature flying into a tree. As the battle raged on, Elias felt a strange connection to the beast, a feeling like they were two sides of the same coin. He knew that if he allowed himself to be consumed by the darkness, he would become one of them, but if he could control it, he might just stand a chance against the growing army that threatened their survival. In the end, Elias emerged victorious, but exhausted and shaken. Zara lay on the ground, her wounds bandaged and her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I thought I had lost you." Elias helped her to her feet, his heart heavy with the weight of what he had become. He knew that their journey was far from over, and the darkness inside of him threatened to consume them both, if they didn't find a way to control it. As they continued through the forest, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, something that wanted his powers for its own purposes. He knew that he would have to be careful, for their lives depended on it. They eventually came upon an ancient grove, surrounded by massive, gnarled trees and strange symbols carved into their bark. In the center of the grove stood a single tree, its branches reaching out like arms in welcome. Elias approached the tree, his eyes drawn to the pendant hanging around his neck, a symbol he had found earlier in the forest that seemed to have some connection to this place. As he touched the pendant, he felt a strange energy surge through him, filling him with a sense of purpose and determination. "We must find Dr. Timekeeper," he whispered to Zara. "She might hold the answers we need." Zara nodded, her eyes filled with resolve. Together, they stepped into the heart of the forest, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they ventured deeper into the dense woods, they encountered more and more beasts, each one stronger than the last. But Elias could feel the darkness growing within him, granting him new powers that allowed him to defeat them with ease. One day, as they rested near the ancient tree, they were ambushed by a group of agents led by Agent Smith himself. He sneered at Elias, his eyes filled with greed and malice. "You're coming with us," he growled, "and you'll help us control these powers." Elias stood tall, his eyes blazing with anger. He knew that if he gave in to Agent Smith, it would mean the end of everything they had fought for. He took a deep breath, feeling the darkness within him surge forward as he transformed into the creature he had become. The agents recoiled in fear, their weapons trained on Elias as he stood before them. Agent Smith's eyes narrowed, and he smiled coldly. "You don't stand a chance," he sneered. "We have an army of these creatures at our disposal." Elias felt a strange sense of calm wash over him as he prepared to face the onslaught. He knew that if he allowed himself to be consumed by the darkness, he might just stand a chance against Agent Smith's army. As the battle raged on, Elias fought with everything he had. He could feel the weight of the world resting on his shoulders, and he refused to let it fall. He knew that if they were to survive, they would need to find a way to control the darkness within him, a way to balance the scales and restore order to the timeline. In the end, Elias emerged victorious, but at a great cost. The forest around them was a sea of destruction, the beasts vanquished, but the darkness within Elias still raging. He knew that he would have to find a way to control it, for their survival and the fate of humanity depended on it. As they made their way through the devastated forest, Elias felt a strange sense of connection to the beasts, a feeling like they were all part of the same web of life. He knew that if he could find a way to control the darkness within him, he might just be able to help them all. Fractured Time's emissary. The battle against Agent Smith's army left both sides battered but not broken. As Elias and Zara catch their breath, a sense of dread settles over them. The forest around them had changed. The once lush greenery was replaced by an endless sea of beasts, their eyes glowing menacingly in the dim twilight. Elias glanced at Zara, who held her side where the claws of one of Smith's monstrous creations had raked across it. Her determined expression never wavered as she eyed their new foes with grim resolve. "We can't keep running forever," Elias said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The darkness within me is growing stronger with every use of my powers." Zara nodded, gritting her teeth. "I know. But we can't give up. We have to find Dr. Timekeeper and learn how to control this before it consumes us both." They pressed on through the dense underbrush, their progress slow as they fought off wave after wave of beasts. Each creature they defeated seemed to summon more from the shadows, leaving them feeling cornered. "There!" Zara shouted, pointing towards a massive, gnarled tree looming ahead. That must be the ancient tree we've been searching for. Elias nodded, his heart racing as he sprinted towards it, desperate to find answers and a way to control the darkness threatening to consume him. As they approached, strange symbols carved into the bark caught their eyes. Elias felt an eerie pull from the markings that seemed to resonate with the darkness within him. "We need to be careful," Zara warned, her gaze locked on the symbols. "These might hold secrets we're not prepared for." Ignoring her warning, Elias reached out and touched one of the symbols. A jolt ran through his body, and he felt a sudden surge of power coursing through him. His vision blurred as he fell to his knees, the darkness with him boiling to the surface. "Elias!" Zara cried, rushing to his side. What happened? Elias's eyes fluttered open, and he looked up at her with a wild, desperate look in them. I think I found something." As Elias struggled to stand, Zara could see the darkness within him swirling like a storm cloud. She knew they had stumbled upon something powerful, but she couldn't shake the feeling that it might be more dangerous than they realized. "Come on," she said, offering him a hand up. "We need to keep moving." A cold wind whistled through the dense forest, carrying with it a sense of foreboding as Elias and Zara trudged forward, weary from their previous encounters with monstrous beasts. The once lush undergrowth had given way to twisted vines and desolate woods, where only the occasional rustle of leaves and distant growls echoed through the air. Elias's heart raced as he scanned the area for any signs of danger. His powers seemed to be growing darker, the transformation into his new forms more taxing on both his body and mind. He clutched the pendant around his neck tightly, feeling its warmth seeping through his fingers. The strange symbols carved into its surface seemed to pulse with an eerie glow, as if they held a power that could help him control his abilities. "Elias," Zara called out, her voice barely audible over the wind. "We need to rest soon." "I can feel my wounds starting to reopen," he nodded, glancing at the gash on her shoulder that refused to heal completely. Her determination was unwavering, but he knew she couldn't keep pushing herself like this forever. They needed a solution, and fast. As they continued their trek through the dense forest, the ground beneath them began to change. The desolate woods gave way to an endless sea of glowing-eyed beasts, each one watching them with malicious intent. A wave of fear washed over Elias as he realized that they were surrounded by the very creatures they had been trying to avoid. "Run!" Zara shouted, drawing her sword and charging towards the nearest beast. Elias followed suit, transforming into a powerful form as they fought their way through the sea of monstrous beasts. They moved with ferocity, carving a path through the horde until they found themselves standing near the ancient tree from before. "Elias," Zara said, panting heavily as they caught their breath, "we need to do something about this." He nodded, reaching out to touch the strange symbols carved into the bark of the ancient tree. A surge of power coursed through him, and he felt his powers grow even darker as a result. The beast's eyes seemed to glow brighter in response, as if they sensed the change within him. "We can't stay here," Zara whispered, looking around at the army of monstrous beasts that surrounded them. "Something is guiding these creatures." Elias nodded, feeling a growing unease in his chest. He knew they couldn't stay hidden for long, and he wondered if their journey would soon lead them to face something far more dangerous than anything they had encountered before. With a heavy heart, they turned and fled, leaving the ancient tree behind as the monstrous beasts roared in pursuit. The forest seemed to close in around them, trapping them in a world of darkness and fear. Elias could feel the darkness within him growing stronger with every step they took, and he knew that if they didn't find a way to stop it soon, he might lose control forever. As they ran deeper into the forest, they stumbled upon a hidden grove nestled within the dense underbrush. The sunlight filtering through the leaves cast dappled shadows across the ground as they paused to catch their breath. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the power of the pendant pulse against his skin. "What is it?" Zara asked, noticing his strange expression. He opened his eyes, meeting her gaze. I think this might be our chance." She looked at him skeptically but nodded, sensing that he was serious. He reached into the pouch at his waist, pulling out a small vial of liquid. "This is what Dr. Timekeeper gave me," he explained. "It's supposed to help control my powers." Zara eyed the vial warily. And you trust her? He hesitated, feeling a sense of unease at the thought of working with someone who represented the very organization that sought to exploit his abilities. But he knew that if they didn't find a solution soon, they might not make it out of this forest alive. I don't know, he admitted, but I think we have no other choice. Zara nodded, reaching for the vial. We'll do whatever it takes to get out of here. There. Fractured Time's emissary. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the ancient grove. The air was thick with tension. Zara lay motionless beside Elias, her wounds slowly healing thanks to his newfound powers. He looked upon her with concern, guilt weighing heavily on his heart. You'll be fine, he whispered, reaching for her hand. Zara opened her eyes and smiled weakly. I always thought I was ready for anything but this. This world has changed me. She paused, looking around at their temporary sanctuary. And it will change you too, Elias. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the power coursing through him like a living thing. He knew she spoke truthfully. I don't want to lose myself, he murmured, or hurt anyone else in this twisted place. We all struggle with our new selves, Zara replied softly. But remember, you're not alone. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden rustling nearby, and Elias tensed. The forest seemed to hold its breath as they listened intently. Something lurked in the shadows, watching them. A moment later, a pack of monstrous beasts burst from the underbrush, their glowing eyes reflecting the moonlight menacingly. Elias and Zara leapt to their feet, readying themselves for battle. As they fought, Elias felt his powers growing stronger, fueled by fear and adrenaline. He knew he had to control them for her and for himself. But every time he tried, the darkness threatened to consume him completely. The fight raged on, with Elias using his powers to hold back the beasts while Zara fought fiercely beside him. He could sense another presence nearby, watching carefully, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Agent Smith and his agents were closing in. As the battle reached its peak, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows. Elias knew he had been found by the one who sought to control his abilities. The hooded figure reached out towards him with a sinister intent, but Zara stepped between them. A fierce warrior, she stood tall, shielding her companion from harm. Stay back, she roared, her eyes blazing with determination. I'll take you on myself if it means protecting Elias. The hooded figure smiled coldly before disappearing into the darkness once more. Elias and Zara managed to fend off their attackers, but they knew they could not stay here forever. The shadows of the forest closed in around them, and they had to press on. As dawn broke, they made their way deeper into the heart of the forest, guided by the strange symbols etched into ancient trees. Their journey was fraught with danger, but they persevered, driven by hope and the promise of a return to normal life. The darkness within Elias continued to grow, pushing him to the brink, but he refused to give in to it. He clung to his memories of Zara, her strength, her compassion, and her unwavering support. Under the cover of darkness, Elias and Zara cautiously approached the ancient tree, its gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The strange symbols carved into the bark called out to them, beckoning with a dark power that sent chills down their spines. Elias reached out and touched one symbol, feeling a surge of energy coursing through him. Zara's eyes widened as she watched Elias grow stronger. His powers seemed almost uncontrollable now. He looked up at the ancient tree, sensing its power, and suddenly understood why it had drawn them here. This was where their answers lay, and their salvation. Suddenly, a rustling in the underbrush behind them caught Zara's attention. She turned to face the direction of the noise, her senses on high alert. A moment later, they heard the distant growl of monstrous beasts closing in around them. We need to move, Elias said, his voice barely above a whisper. I can feel the darkness growing within me, and I don't know how long I can hold it back. Zara nodded and clutched her sword tightly as they sprinted towards the ancient tree. Beasts erupted from the undergrowth, their snarling faces twisted with hunger. Elias transformed into a panther, using his new agility to dodge their attacks while Zara fought them off with her sword. As they reached the tree's base, Elias touched another symbol, and the ground shook violently beneath them. A massive wave of energy pulsed from the ancient tree, sending the beasts fleeing in all directions. Exhausted, Elias transformed back into his human form, leaning against the tree for support. Zara helped him to sit down as they both caught their breaths. "What did you do?" she asked, her voice trembling with fear and awe. Elias looked up at the ancient tree, his eyes filled with determination. "I don't know," he replied, "but I think it might be our key to survival." As they rested, Agent Smith appeared from the shadows, his cold gaze fixed on Elias. He stepped closer, a cruel smile spreading across his face as he reached into his coat pocket. "You should come with me, Elias," he said, revealing a small pendant with one of the strange symbols carved into it. "I have something you might find interesting." Zara sprung to her feet, her sword raised protectively in front of Elias. "Stay away from him," she snarled. "Don't be foolish," Agent Smith replied, taking a step closer. "Your resistance is futile. Join me, and I can promise you both safety." Elias felt the darkness within him stir at Agent Smith's words, a voice whispering in his mind that this might be their way out of this nightmare. But he knew better than to trust the man before them. He stood up and faced Agent Smith, his eyes burning with determination. "I won't let you hurt Zara," Elias said firmly, "and I won't join you." Agent Smith scoffed, his expression filled with disappointment. "Fine, if you insist on being difficult," he said, pulling out a small device and pointing it at them. A bright light erupted from the device, blinding Elias and Zara as Agent Smith laughed maniacally and disappeared back into the shadows. Elias shook his head, trying to clear his vision as the world around him grew blurry. "We need to go," he said hoarsely, clutching Zara's arm. "I don't know what that device was, but I think it knocked us out for a few minutes." Zara nodded, helping Elias up as they stumbled towards the heart of the forest. They needed answers, and they needed them fast if they wanted to survive this nightmare. As they ventured deeper into the forest, they encountered more and more monstrous beasts that seemed drawn to their presence. They fought off wave after wave, their powers growing stronger with each passing moment. But they could feel the darkness within Elias growing as well, threatening to consume him completely. Finally, they arrived at a dense grove of trees, its center dominated by an ancient tree unlike any they had ever seen before. The strange symbols carved into its bark called out to them, promising answers and power beyond their wildest dreams. Elias reached out tentatively, feeling the energy pulsing from the tree. He closed his eyes as he touched one of the symbols, feeling a surge of power coursing through him that made his entire body tremble. He opened his eyes, staring up at the ancient tree in awe. "What did you do?" Zara asked, her voice filled with wonder. Elias smiled weakly. "I think I found our way out," he said, his eyes shining with determination. "But we need to be careful. This power is dark, and it's not without its consequences." Fractured Time's emissary Elias and Zara moved cautiously through the dense underbrush, their senses heightened. The forest was alive with the sounds of monstrous beasts lurking nearby, ready to pounce at a moment's notice. "We need to stay focused," Zara warned, her eyes darting around the grove as they approached an ancient tree that seemed to pulse with a strange energy. "The closer we get to the heart of this forest, the more dangerous it becomes." As they reached the gnarled tree, Elias hesitated. Something about the massive trunk seemed familiar, the strange symbols carved into its bark. He gently touched one symbol and felt a surge of energy coursing through his body. His senses sharpened, and he sensed the presence of more beasts closing in. "We need to get moving," Zara urged, pulling him away from the tree. They quickly moved deeper into the forest, staying alert for any threats. Suddenly, a monstrous beast lunged out from the bushes, its eyes glowing with malice. Elias reacted instinctively, his body shifting and contorting as he transformed into a powerful creature of flight, taking to the air to evade the charging beast. He could feel his powers growing stronger with each transformation, but at what cost? Zara followed him, her weapons ready as she took on the monstrous creatures that pursued them. As they fought their way through the dense forest, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was guiding these beasts, that perhaps there was a force controlling them all. Suddenly, he felt another surge of energy from the ancient tree. He hesitated, drawn towards its power, but Zara grabbed him and pulled him away. "We can't let ourselves get distracted," she warned. "Agent Smith is still out there, and we need to find a way out of this forest." Elias nodded, focusing on the battle ahead as they continued their trek through the desolate woods. As they fought their way deeper into the heart of the forest, they began to see signs of something larger at work, a hidden force controlling these beasts, guiding them towards Elias and Zara. They encountered more and more monstrous creatures, each more powerful than the last. It seemed as though the entire forest was converging on their position, forcing them to fight for their survival. Just when they thought things couldn't get any worse, a hooded figure appeared before them, holding a small pendant with one of the strange symbols etched into its surface. "Give me that," the figure demanded, reaching out towards Elias. He hesitated, unsure of what to do. Was this person friend or foe? Or was there even a difference anymore in this twisted forest? Zara stepped between them, her weapons at the ready. "Back off," she growled, her eyes blazing with determination. "He's not giving you anything," the hooded figure sneered, revealing a glint of teeth beneath the cowl. "Then perhaps you'll have to learn the hard way." The figure raised its hand, and a wave of energy washed over Elias and Zara, knocking them to the ground. As they struggled to get back up, more monstrous beasts appeared from the shadows, circling them menacingly. Elias knew he had to make a choice, give in to the power of the ancient tree, or continue fighting for his life and the safety of those around him. As the beasts closed in, he made up his mind. He reached out towards the pendant, feeling its energy coursing through him as he transformed once more, growing stronger than ever before. With renewed determination, Elias leapt into action, taking on the monstrous creatures that threatened Zara and himself. Together they fought their way through the sea of beasts, their powers growing stronger with each passing moment. But even as they battled, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was controlling these creatures, that there was a force at work behind the scenes. As the battle raged on, Agent Smith appeared before them, his agents flanking him on either side. "I've been waiting for you," he sneered, reaching out towards Elias with the pendant still clutched in his hand. "This is the key to your true power and mine." Elias hesitated, torn between the power of the pendant and the safety of those around him. But Zara stepped forward, grabbing the pendant from Smith's grasp and destroying it with a swift blow of her sword. "You won't take him," she growled, turning to face Agent Smith and his army of beasts. "He belongs to no one but himself." The battle continued, Elias and Zara fighting for their lives against the growing horde of monstrous creatures. As they fought, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was still controlling these beasts, that there was a force at work behind the scenes. And as he faced Agent Smith one final time, he knew that he would have to confront this hidden threat if he wanted to truly save himself and those around him. With renewed determination, Elias focused his powers, summoning a storm of energy that engulfed both him and Agent Smith, tearing the secret organization leader apart from within. As the dust settled, Zara stood victorious, her weapons at her side as she looked down upon the defeated army of beasts. "We did it," she said, turning to Elias. "But this is far from over." Elias nodded, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over him. He knew that their journey was far from over, but he also knew that he was ready for whatever lay ahead. Together, they would face the hidden force controlling these beasts and find a way out of the twisted forest that had become their home. As they walked away from the battlefield, Elias couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction wash over him. They had survived against all odds, and he had discovered a newfound power within himself. But as they moved deeper into the heart of the forest, he knew that this was far from the end of their journey. There were still mysteries to uncover, powers to master, and battles to be fought, but for now they could rest, if only for a moment. Together, they had faced the darkness within themselves and emerged stronger than ever before. And as they continued on their trek through the ancient forest, Elias knew that he would never forget the lessons they had learned along the way, or the friends who had helped him find his way back to himself. The dense underbrush blurred as Elias sprinted through the ancient grove, his heart pounding in his chest. The weight of the pendant now resting around his neck was unbearable, yet he knew its power was the only thing that could help him escape this twisted forest and return to his normal life. He stumbled upon a massive gnarled tree, etched with strange symbols unlike any he had seen before. His breath caught in his throat as he reached out to touch it, feeling an overwhelming surge of energy coursing through him. He saw visions of the future, of a world consumed by monstrous beasts and the destruction of humanity. A hidden force controlled these creatures, and Elias knew he had to find a way to stop them before it was too late. As he pulled his hand away from the tree, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows. "You have what I've been searching for," the figure whispered menacingly. "I won't let you have it," Elias cried out, readying himself for a fight. The hooded figure lunged at him, and they clashed in a whirlwind of fists and kicks. Zara appeared behind the figure, her eyes narrowing as she studied the pendant around Elias's neck. "That's not the pendant we destroyed," she said, confusion evident on her face. The hooded figure turned towards her, revealing a face that Elias recognized all too well. "Agent Smith. You've made a grave mistake, Scholar," Smith sneered. "I will stop at nothing to possess those powers." As they fought, more monstrous beasts began to emerge from the underbrush, growling and snarling menacingly. Elias could feel their hunger for his power growing stronger by the second. He knew that he had to find a way out of this forest before it was too late. With one final burst of energy, Elias transformed into a creature of pure force, his body shimmering with power as he unleashed a devastating attack on Smith and his army of beasts. The battle raged on, but Elias felt something within him changing. The power coursing through him was growing stronger by the second. Zara watched in awe as Elias fought, her eyes filled with determination. "We'll find a way out of this, Elias," she said, gripping her weapon tightly. "Together, we can defeat whatever is controlling these beasts." As the battle reached its climax, Elias felt something deep within him breaking free, a power he had never known existed. With one final roar, he unleashed his full might against Smith and his army, driving them back and shattering the hidden force that controlled the monstrous creatures. The forest fell silent as Elias stood victorious, the weight of the pendant now glowing brightly around his neck. He knew that this was only the beginning. There was still much to be done before he could return to his normal life, but for now he allowed himself a moment's respite, breathing deeply and letting the power course through him. Fractured Time's emissary Elias stood in the dense underbrush, feeling the familiar surge of energy coursing through him as he brushed against a gnarled tree adorned with strange symbols etched into its bark. His heart raced, knowing that this power could be his key to uncovering the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts. Elias called out Zara from deeper in the forest. "Are you ready?" He looked around, sensing a presence nearby, but unable to locate its source. A chill ran down his spine as he considered the threat they faced. Agent Smith and his army of monstrous beasts lurking in the heart of the forest. "I think so," Elias replied, gripping the pendant tightly around his neck. "But we need to be careful." Zara nodded, her eyes scanning the dense grove as they approached the entrance. As they entered the ancient grove, a new surge of energy pulsed through Elias's body. He looked at Zara, who seemed to sense his change and raised an eyebrow curiously. "What is it?" she asked. "I'm not sure," Elias whispered, feeling the power swirling inside him. "But I think this pendant might be connected to more than just the symbols on the trees." They pressed deeper into the grove, cautious and alert for any signs of danger. The air was thick with tension as they approached the heart of the forest. A sudden rustling in the underbrush caught Elias' attention. He tensed, preparing himself for the battle that would surely follow. "Agent Smith," a voice echoed through the trees. "I have been expecting you." Elias and Zara turned to see the hooded figure standing tall before them, a sinister smile playing on his lips. The monstrous beasts that surrounded him growled menacingly, their eyes glowing with a malevolent light. "You cannot hide from me forever," Smith said, taking a step towards Elias. "Your powers are too great to contain." Elias felt the familiar surge of energy coursing through his body as he prepared for battle. He looked at Zara, who nodded her encouragement before transforming into a powerful creature of speed and agility. The battle that ensued was fierce and chaotic. Elias transformed into various creatures, using their unique abilities to hold back Agent Smith's army of monstrous beasts, while Zara fought alongside him. Despite their best efforts, the tide seemed to turn against them as more and more creatures emerged from the shadows. "We cannot win this way," Elias yelled over the roar of battle. "There has to be another solution." Zara nodded, her eyes scanning the battlefield for an opportunity. Suddenly, she spotted a weakness, a massive, gnarled tree with strange symbols carved into its bark. She ran towards it, grabbing onto the symbols, and feeling a surge of energy flow through her. As she released the symbols, a wave of energy pulsed outwards, knocking back Agent Smith and his army. In that moment, Elias felt the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts falter. With renewed strength, he transformed into a creature of immense power, unleashing his full might against Smith and the controlling force. The air crackled with energy as Elias fought to restore balance, sensing the weight of the world on his shoulders. Finally, as the last remnants of the hidden force crumbled, Elias allowed himself a moment's respite. He looked at Zara, who stood victorious against Agent Smith and his army of monstrous beasts. Together, they had faced their greatest challenge yet, and emerged stronger than ever before. "We did it," Elias whispered, feeling the weight of the world lift from his shoulders. "But we cannot stay here." Zara nodded, her eyes scanning the now desolate woods. They knew that their journey was far from over. There were still many mysteries to uncover and battles yet to fight. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment's rest in the heart of the forest, knowing that together, they could face whatever lay ahead. The sun had barely risen over the dense underbrush when Elias awoke with a start. His heart raced, and he could feel the weight of the pendant around his neck. He sat up, scanning the forest around him, trying to shake the lingering dread from his dreams. As he stood, something caught his eye, strange symbols etched into the bark of the ancient tree nearby. He approached it cautiously, his senses on high alert, and traced the intricate patterns with his fingers. The air around them shimmered, and a faint glow emanated from the symbols. Suddenly, the forest seemed to shift, the sounds growing louder and more ominous. Elias's heart pounded in his chest as he realized he was not alone. He turned, scanning the dense grove for any sign of danger, but there was nothing. Just as he was about to dismiss it, a rustling in the underbrush made him freeze. A monstrous beast emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Elias's instincts took over, and he quickly transformed into a powerful creature, a lion with razor-sharp claws and fangs that could rend flesh from bone. With a roar, Elias charged at the beast, his new form giving him the speed and agility to close the distance in an instant. The beast snarled and lunged, but Elias evaded its attack with ease, clawing into its side before leaping away. The fight was brutal and relentless, the two creatures tearing at each other with primal ferocity. But as they battled, Elias felt a strange connection to the beast. It seemed to understand him, even though it was no longer human. He could sense its pain, its fear, and something deeper, a desire for freedom from the force controlling it. As the fight continued, Elias began to realize that he wasn't just fighting for his own survival. He was fighting for the beast as well. With a final surge of strength, he struck the beast with a powerful blow, sending it sprawling. As it lay gasping on the ground, the connection between them shattered, and the beast dissipated into thin air. Exhausted, Elias collapsed beside the tree, his breathing ragged. He looked up at the symbols, now glowing brightly, and felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. He knew that he had made a choice, to protect not just humanity, but all living creatures from the forces that sought to control them. As the sun began to set, Elias stood once more, his body aching but his spirit renewed. He knew that there would be more battles ahead, and darker foes waiting in the shadows, but he was ready. He was the emissary of time, and he would do whatever it took to protect the world from those who sought to destroy it. In the heart of the forest, a hooded figure watched Elias' transformation with a mixture of curiosity and concern. The symbols etched into his staff seemed to glow brighter in response to Elias' actions, and the figure knew that the emissary was growing stronger and more dangerous to those who sought to control him. Fractured Time's emissary, as Elias ventured deeper into the dense grove, he could feel a strange energy resonating from the massive gnarled tree. The air was thick with anticipation as he approached it, feeling the weight of countless eyes on his back. He hesitated for a moment before touching the symbols etched into its bark and sensing their power coursing through him like an electric current. A sudden rustling in the underbrush caught Elias' attention, and he turned to find a monstrous beast crouching mere feet away from him. Its eyes glowed with malice as it snarled, showing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Before Elias could react, another beast emerged from the darkness behind him, blocking his escape route. The beasts lunged simultaneously, but Elias was ready. He raised his staff and focused on the symbols, feeling the power surge through him once more. The beasts froze in place as he manipulated time around them, slowing their movements to a crawl. With a swift motion, he struck them with his staff, shattering the icy barrier surrounding them and sending the creatures sprawling. He took a moment to catch his breath before moving forward, sensing that something was guiding these beasts to attack him. He wondered if the hooded figure from earlier had anything to do with it, or if there was another force at play. He knew he couldn't afford to let his guard down, even for a moment. As Elias continued deeper into the forest, he encountered more of the monstrous beasts. Each time he fought them, he felt a growing sense that he was being watched. He could sense the hidden force controlling these creatures, feeling its malevolent presence, seeping through the ancient grove. He knew he couldn't face this hidden foe alone, and his thoughts turned to Dr. Timekeeper. She held the key to understanding the accident that granted him his powers and might be able to help him uncover the truth about these beasts. He needed her knowledge more than ever before. Just as Elias was contemplating his next move, he heard a faint rustling in the dense underbrush nearby. Emerging from the shadows was a hooded figure, holding a small pendant with strange symbols carved into its surface. Elias recognized it immediately. It was the same pendant he had seen on Agent Smith during their first encounter. The figure spoke in a voice filled with venom. "You should have stayed out of this, emissary. But now that you've meddled, there's no turning back." The hooded figure lunged at Elias, who quickly reacted by manipulating time around him, sending the figure stumbling backwards and allowing him to escape into the dense grove. Elias knew he couldn't let his guard down for even a moment against this new threat. He needed allies if he was going to stand a chance against both the hidden force controlling these monstrous beasts and Agent Smith. He wondered who else might be out there, fighting for their survival in this ever-changing world. As Elias ventured deeper into the dense forest, he couldn't shake the feeling that danger was lurking around every corner. The air grew colder, and the ground beneath him felt unstable as he moved forward, sensing that he was being watched by something far more sinister than anything he had faced before. He knew he needed to be vigilant if he was going to survive this ordeal, but he also couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. He had been chosen for a reason, and he would not let the darkness consume him. He would fight for his freedom, for the freedom of the controlled beasts, and for the future of humanity. The wind howled as Elias pressed onward, sensing that the battle against the hidden force was drawing near. He knew that he wouldn't have an easy path to victory, but he was determined to see it through no matter the cost. As he ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, he felt a growing sense of purpose surge through him, fueling his resolve to protect all living creatures and restore balance to the timeline. And so, Elias continued his journey, knowing that the true test was yet to come. He would face impossible odds, powerful enemies, and personal demons, but he wouldn't back down. He was the emissary, and he would do whatever it took to save humanity from the impending apocalypse. As Elias ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, he knew that his fate was inexorably linked with the world around him. He couldn't turn back now, even if he wanted to. The weight of his actions hung heavy on his shoulders as he forged ahead, determined to face whatever challenges awaited him and emerge victorious. But little did Elias know he was being watched. Agent Smith had been tracking his every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He knew that Elias held the key to unlocking immense power, and he would do anything to get his hands on it. The battle lines were drawn, and the stage was set for an epic confrontation between two powerful forces. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the dense forest, Elias sensed that something was wrong. He couldn't put his finger on it, but he knew that danger was near. His instincts told him to flee, but he refused to let fear control him. He stood tall, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, and then, as if on cue, the monstrous beasts emerged from the shadows, surrounding Elias on all sides. He knew that this was it, the final battle against the hidden force controlling these creatures and Agent Smith's army of agents. He took a deep breath and raised his staff, focusing on the symbols etched into its surface as he prepared to face the enemy head-on. The battle that followed was intense, with Elias using every ounce of his power to hold back the tide of beasts. Agent Smith watched from the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But Elias refused to back down, sensing that his actions would determine not only his own fate but the fate of humanity itself. As the battle raged on, Elias began to tire. He could feel the weight of the world bearing down on him, and he knew that he couldn't hold out much longer. But just when all seemed lost, Dr. Timekeeper appeared at his side, offering her assistance. Together, they fought back against Agent Smith and the monstrous beasts, determined to save humanity from impending doom. In a final desperate act, Elias and Dr. Timekeeper managed to uncover the hidden force controlling the beasts, severing its hold on them. The creatures roared in pain as they reverted back to their original forms, falling to the ground lifeless. Agent Smith was captured and taken into custody by Dr. Timekeeper, who vowed to bring him to justice for his crimes against humanity. Elias looked out over the heart of the forest, feeling a sense of peace wash over him as he realized that he had managed to save humanity from the impending apocalypse. He knew that there would be challenges ahead, but he was determined to face them head-on and protect those he loved. As the sun set on the battlefield, Elias felt a renewed sense of purpose. He had been chosen for a reason, and he wouldn't let anyone take that away from him. He knew that his journey was far from over, but he was ready to face whatever came next. As Elias walked away from the battlefield, he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone. The wind whispered secrets in his ear, hinting at darker foes lurking in the shadows. He knew that he would have to be vigilant if he was going to survive this ordeal, but he also couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. He had faced impossible odds, powerful enemies, and personal demons, but he had emerged victorious. He was the emissary, and he would do whatever it took to protect all living creatures and restore balance to the timeline. As he ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, he knew that his fate was still uncertain, but he was determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and determination, and so, Elias continued his journey, sensing that the true test was yet to come. He would face impossible odds, powerful enemies, and personal demons, but he wouldn't back down. He was the emissary, and he would do whatever it took to save humanity from the impending apocalypse. In the quiet stillness of the ancient grove, Elias sat in contemplation beneath the massive gnarled tree adorned with strange symbols carved into its bark. The pendant around his neck glowed faintly, pulsing with energy that flowed through him like a living current. Dr. Timekeeper stood nearby, observing the young man with a mixture of awe and concern in her eyes. "You have done well, Elias," she said softly, "but I fear there is more to this power than we yet understand." Elias nodded absently, his gaze fixed upon the ancient tree before him. "I can sense something, a force behind all of this, something that has been guiding these beasts." Dr. Timekeeper's brow furrowed in thought. "The symbols, they could hold the key to understanding what we are dealing with, but they are complex and require extensive study." Suddenly, a rustling in the underbrush broke the tranquil silence. A moment later, Zara emerged from the dense foliage, her eyes flashing with determination as she surveyed the ancient grove. Elias' heart leapt within his chest as he greeted his newfound ally. "Zara, thank goodness you're here," he said breathlessly. "We need to discuss what we've discovered and plan our next move against Agent Smith." As they spoke, Victor crept stealthily through the dense grove, a smirk playing upon his lips as he listened in on their conversation. He had been following Elias for days now, eager to learn more about the powerful emissary who held the key to controlling the beasts that plagued humanity. In the heart of the forest, Agent Smith stood before a vast army of monstrous beasts, their eyes burning with malice as they awaited his command. He turned to face them with cold, calculating eyes and let out a chilling laugh. "My dear creatures," he began, his voice dripping with menace, "with Elias at my side, we shall become unstoppable. Together, we will bend the world to our will." As Agent Smith's army marched through the dense forest, Elias, Zara, and Dr. Timekeeper stood watch over the ancient tree, their hearts heavy with anticipation. The hidden force guiding these beasts would not be easily defeated, but they knew that if they worked together, they could save humanity from certain destruction. But as the sun began to set upon the desolate woods, a new danger emerged. A hooded figure stepped out from the shadows, bearing an air of power and malevolence that sent shivers down Elias's spine. The figure spoke in a voice that echoed through the forest like thunder. "You have meddled with forces beyond your comprehension," it said, its eyes glowing with an eerie light, "and for that you shall pay dearly." As the hooded figure approached, Elias felt the weight of his newfound powers press down upon him like a heavy burden. He knew that this was far from over, and that the true test lay ahead. With Zara and Dr. Timekeeper by his side, he would face whatever challenges came his way, ready to protect humanity at all costs. The battle against Agent Smith's army of beasts was fierce and brutal, but Elias, Zara, and Dr. Timekeeper fought with renewed determination. The hooded figure watched from the sidelines, its eyes gleaming with anticipation as it awaited the outcome of this conflict. In the end, their combined efforts proved victorious, and Agent Smith lay defeated at their feet, his army scattered and weakened. But even as they stood triumphant, Elias knew that there was more to this story than met the eye. He glanced up at the ancient tree before him, its strange symbols etched into its bark, a constant reminder of the mysteries that still needed unraveling. The hooded figure emerged from the shadows once more, its eyes narrowing as it regarded Elias with a mixture of admiration and contempt. "You have done well," it said, "but your journey is far from over." Elias felt a shiver run down his spine as he stared into the figure's burning gaze. He knew that this was just the beginning of his adventure, and that there were many secrets yet to be uncovered. With Zara and Dr. Timekeeper by his side, he would face whatever challenges lay ahead, ready to protect humanity at all costs. In the days that followed, Elias, Zara, and Dr. Timekeeper continued their quest for answers, delving deeper into the heart of the ancient forest as they sought to understand the true nature of time manipulation and the hidden force controlling the beasts. They faced numerous challenges and dangers along the way, but their resolve never wavered. As they ventured further into the dense underbrush, Elias felt a growing connection with the world around him. He could sense the pulse of life beneath his feet, the beating heart of the forest that echoed within his own chest. It was a strange and unsettling sensation, but it filled him with a newfound purpose. In time, they reached the heart of the forest, where an ancient tree stood tall and proud amidst the sea of beasts that roamed the land. The symbols carved into its bark glowed brightly in the dim light, casting eerie shadows upon the ground as Elias approached it with reverence. "This is it," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the roar of the monstrous creatures that surrounded them, "the source of all this power." As they stood before the ancient tree, the hooded figure emerged once more from the shadows, its eyes burning with an intensity that made Elias' blood run cold. "I have been watching you," it said, its voice like ice. "You are closer than you realize to understanding the truth about your powers." Elias felt a sudden surge of anger well up within him as he regarded the figure before him. He knew that this was more than just a battle between good and evil. It was a struggle for control over the very fabric of reality itself. "You won't get away with this," Elias vowed, his voice strong and steady despite the fear that gripped his heart. "I won't let you destroy the world," the hooded figure laughed coldly. "Then we shall see who is truly powerful," it said, its eyes glowing like embers as it disappeared back into the shadows. Elias knew that their fight was far from over, but he also knew that he could not stand idly by while the world burned around him. With Zara and Dr. Timekeeper at his side, he would continue to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to protect humanity and uncover the secrets of time manipulation. Their journey was far from easy, but Elias, Zara, and Dr. Timekeeper persevered through trials and tribulations, facing off against Agent Smith's army of agents and monstrous beasts as they delved deeper into the heart of the ancient forest. Along the way, they uncovered hidden truths about themselves and the world around them, learning more about their powers and the force that controlled the beasts. In the end, it was Elias who discovered the key to unlocking the power within the ancient tree. With a final push of his will, he felt the symbols etched into its bark resonate with an energy unlike any he had ever experienced. The world around him seemed to bend and warp as the power coursed through him, filling him with a sense of awe and wonder that left him breathless. As the last vestige of humanity gathered at the ancient academy, Elias stood tall amongst them, his newfound powers humming with energy as he looked out upon the world before him. The struggle was far from over, but he knew that he had taken a step closer to understanding the true nature of time manipulation and the hidden force controlling the beasts. With Zara by his side, Elias embarked on a new journey, eager to learn more about himself and the world around him. Together, they faced whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to protect humanity and uncover the secrets that still remained. And though the road was long and fraught with danger, Elias knew that he would not rest until he had fulfilled his destiny as an emissary for all living creatures. In time, they found themselves standing before the heart of the ancient forest once more, the sea of beasts roaring around them like a living storm. But this time Elias felt no fear. He knew that he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, and that with Zara by his side, he would emerge victorious. As they stepped into the heart of the forest, Elias could sense the hidden force guiding the beasts tremble beneath his touch. With a final surge of will, he severed their connection, freeing the monstrous creatures from their control and bringing balance to the world once more. In the end, it was not Agent Smith or the hooded figure that Elias faced in his final battle, it was himself. As he stood before the ancient tree, he realized that the true enemy had been within him all along, his fear of losing control, of becoming something other than human. But with Zara by his side, he found the strength to overcome this inner demons and emerge triumphant. The world around them changed as they stepped out from the heart of the forest, the sea of beasts dissipating like a dream upon waking. Elias felt a sense of peace wash over him as he gazed upon the familiar landscape before him. It was over. The battle was won. But even as he stood there, surrounded by his friends and allies, Elias knew that this was only the beginning. There were still mysteries to uncover, secrets to be revealed, and a world to save. He would continue to face whatever challenges lay ahead, ready to protect humanity at all costs. And so it was that Elias, Zara, and their allies continued on their journey, determined to learn more about themselves and the world around them. They faced many trials and tribulations along the way, but they never wavered in their resolve. Together, they stood against the darkness, ready to fight for what was right. In time, Elias became a legend among his people, a beacon of hope in a world plagued by chaos and uncertainty. His powers grew stronger with each passing day, and he learned to control them with a grace and precision that left even the most skilled warriors in awe. But even as he stood atop the ancient academy, gazing out upon the world below, Elias never forgot his humble beginnings as an ordinary high school student who gained the ability to manipulate time and transform into various creatures. He knew that he would always carry the weight of his past with him, a constant reminder of the struggles he had faced and the sacrifices he had made. And though the journey was long and arduous, Elias never lost sight of his ultimate goal, to protect humanity and restore balance to the world. He knew that there would always be challenges ahead, but he also knew that with Zara by his side, he would face them head-on, determined to make a difference in whatever way he could. In the end, Elias' legacy lived on long after he was gone, inspiring future generations to stand against the darkness and fight for what was right. He had become more than just an emissary. He had become a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in a world shrouded by shadows. And as the last vestige of humanity looked out upon the stars above, they knew that Elias' spirit would live on within them, guiding their actions and inspiring them to never give up, no matter how dark the night seemed. For it was in the heart of the darkest forest that a young man named Elias had found his destiny, and in doing so, he saved humanity from certain destruction. Fractured Time's emissary in a dense underbrush, Elias stood over the defeated body of Agent Smith, his eyes filled with determination and resolve. "You will not take my powers," he growled, gripping the pendant tightly around his neck. The symbols etched into its surface seemed to glow brighter than ever before. From behind him, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows. "The power is mine, Elias," it whispered, its voice filled with malice and greed. Elias turned, his senses heightened. "I will not let you take what's rightfully mine." The figure stepped closer, its eyes narrowing dangerously. You have no choice, Elias, it hissed, reaching out a skeletal hand towards him. With a roar, Elias transformed into a massive lion, his body rippling with power as he lunged at the hooded figure. The creature retreated, disappearing back into the depths of the forest. Turning back to Agent Smith, Elias found that the man had already vanished. "I won't let you escape this time," he murmured, feeling a surge of anger coursing through his veins. As Elias chased after Agent Smith and his army of monstrous beasts, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was guiding them, controlling their every move. He knew that they would have to find a way to stop this hidden force if they wanted to truly save humanity. Meanwhile, Dr. Timekeeper watched the chaos unfold from her hidden laboratory deep within the ancient academy. She clutched her staff with symbols etched into its surface, her eyes filled with tears. "Elias," she whispered, "I never meant for this to happen." Zara stood by her side, watching as Dr. Timekeeper's emotions swung wildly between remorse and determination. "We must find a way to stop them," she said fiercely. For Elias, and for humanity. The ancient grove was filled with monstrous beasts, their roars echoing through the trees as they rampaged across the battlefield. Victor stood atop a massive gnarled tree, surveying the chaos below him. He chuckled darkly, knowing that this was only the beginning of his rise to power. Back in the dense forest, Elias continued his pursuit of Agent Smith and his army. His transformed body moved gracefully through the underbrush, effortlessly outpacing the creatures that pursued him. As he closed in on them, he could feel the hidden force guiding the beasts growing stronger. Suddenly, the forest around him shook violently, and a single tree burst into flames before his eyes. The roar of the monstrous beast that emerged from its trunk sent a shiver down Elias' spine. He knew that he was running out of time, and that if he didn't find a way to stop this hidden force soon, humanity would be lost forever. He transformed once more, this time into a fearsome dragon, its scales shimmering in the moonlight as it took flight. The beast roared, letting out a challenge that echoed across the forest. Agent Smith and his army of monstrous beasts turned to face their new opponent, their eyes filled with anger and hatred. In the heart of the ancient academy, Zara stood before Dr. Timekeeper, her face set in determination. "We have to help Elias," she said firmly. "We can't let him do this alone." Dr. Timekeeper sighed heavily, nodding reluctantly. "Very well," she said, handing over the staff with symbols etched into its surface. "Use it to find Elias and stop whatever is controlling these beasts." As Zara took the staff in her hands, she felt a surge of power coursing through her veins. She knew that this was their chance to save humanity, and she wouldn't let them down. In the heart of the forest, Elias and his monstrous foe clashed in an epic battle that shook the very foundations of the world. The roars of the beasts echoed through the trees as they fought for dominance, neither giving an inch. Zara and Dr. Timekeeper stood together atop a massive gnarled tree, watching the chaos unfold below them. Zara gripped the staff tightly in her hands, focusing on finding Elias and helping him defeat this hidden force once and for all. As the battle raged on, Elias transformed yet again, this time into a powerful phoenix. He soared through the sky, his wings spreading wide as he unleashed a torrent of flames upon the monstrous beasts below. Agent Smith watched from afar, seething with anger and frustration. "I will have my revenge," he snarled, transforming into a fearsome dragon himself. The battle between Elias and Agent Smith continued for what felt like an eternity, neither giving an inch as they fought for control of the forest. Meanwhile, Zara and Dr. Timekeeper raced through the dense underbrush, using the staff to track Elias' location. As they finally caught up with him, they found themselves surrounded by a sea of monstrous beasts. Zara raised the staff high above her head, her eyes filled with determination. "We have to find a way to stop this," she said firmly, channeling all of her strength into the ancient artifact. As the symbols etched into its surface began to glow brightly, Elias transformed once more, this time into a fearsome griffin. He roared in challenge, letting out a cry that echoed through the forest as he launched himself at the monstrous beasts below. The battle raged on for what felt like hours, but eventually Elias and his allies managed to defeat the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts. With their power neutralized, the creatures retreated into the depths of the forest, leaving Elias and his friends standing victorious atop a massive gnarled tree. As they looked out upon the heart of the forest, they knew that their journey was far from over. They had saved humanity for now, but there were still many challenges ahead. Together, they would face whatever came their way, determined to protect their world and those they loved. The sun had set on the dense forest, casting an eerie glow upon the ancient grove where Elias, Zara, and Dr. Timekeeper stood atop the massive gnarled tree. The air was thick with tension as they looked out over a sea of beasts lurking in the underbrush below. "We must press deeper into the forest," Elias said, clutching his pendant tightly. "There is something controlling these creatures. We need to find it and end this once and for all." Zara nodded grimly, her eyes flashing with determination. "Lead the way." As they ventured through the dense underbrush, they encountered a hooded figure standing in their path. Elias's heart raced as he realized it was the same mysterious stranger that had been following him since the accident. "You should not have come here," the figure said with a chill in its voice. "I can offer you power beyond your wildest dreams." Elias felt a surge of anger coursing through his veins, and he transformed into a fierce beast to confront the figure. As they battled, Agent Smith appeared, leading an army of agents and beasts toward them. Elias knew that this was the moment they had been preparing for all along. "I won't let you take my powers," Elias roared, transforming into a powerful dragon to face off against his nemesis. Zara and Dr. Timekeeper fought alongside him, using their combined strength to hold back Smith's army of monstrous beasts. The battle raged on for what felt like hours, with neither side showing any signs of weakness. As the sky began to lighten, Elias felt a strange connection to something deep within the forest, a force that seemed to guide and strengthen him in his fight against Agent Smith. In that moment, he understood the true power he held, not just the ability to transform, but also the ability to shape reality itself. With renewed determination, he called upon every ounce of strength he had left and unleashed a burst of energy that sent both Smith and his army reeling backward. As the dust settled, Elias stood victorious with Zara and Dr. Timekeeper at his side. They gazed out over the defeated army, knowing their journey was far from over. But for now, they had won a battle and perhaps even turned the tide of the war against Agent Smith's organization. Fractured Time's emissary, in the heart of the dense forest, Elias stood before an ancient tree adorned with strange symbols carved into its bark. He felt an inexplicable connection to the symbol etched into his pendant, and sensed something dark lurking nearby. "Elias," Dr. Timekeeper's voice echoed from behind. "We need to find out what these symbols represent." "I feel it too," Zara replied, scanning the underbrush for any signs of danger. "Something powerful is here." As they approached the ancient tree, a low growl emanated from the dense grove ahead. Elias instinctively reached for his pendant, focusing on its symbol. The world around him began to slow as time seemed to bend and twist. He could feel the power of the symbols coursing through him, allowing him to manipulate reality itself. "Elias," Dr. Timekeeper called out, noticing his transformation. "What are you doing?" "I have to find out what this hidden force is," Elias said, his eyes locked on the dark figure lurking in the dense underbrush. "We can't face it unprepared." Elias approached the grove, feeling his heart race as he sensed Agent Smith and his army of monstrous beasts stalking them from the shadows. As they neared the entrance, a hooded figure stepped out, revealing herself to be Dr. Timekeeper. She held a staff with symbols etched into its surface. "Elias," she said, her voice filled with urgency, "we can't do this alone. I have something that might help." She revealed an ancient scroll bearing the same symbols as those carved onto the tree and Elias' pendant. "This could be the key to understanding our enemy. Will you join me?" Elias hesitated, unsure of what awaited them if they chose to ally with Dr. Timekeeper. But as he looked into her eyes, he saw a flicker of honesty and desperation that resonated within him. He knew he couldn't face this threat alone. "Okay," Elias said, reaching out for the scroll. "We can't do this without each other." Together, they ventured deeper into the forest, guided by the symbols etched into their artifacts. As they delved further, they encountered a hidden laboratory deep within the ancient academy, where Dr. Timekeeper had spent years researching time manipulation. They discovered secrets about the accident that granted Elias his powers, and began to unravel the mysteries surrounding the beasts that threatened humanity. As they worked together, tensions between them began to rise as each revealed their pasts and motivations for joining the fight. But despite their differences, they found common ground in their shared desire to protect the world from Agent Smith's organization and the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts. They vowed to stand together against the darkness that threatened to consume them all, knowing that the true battle was just beginning. As the sun set on their newfound alliance, Elias felt a renewed sense of hope. Together, they might just have a chance at saving humanity from the impending apocalypse. The group made camp near the ancient tree, with Elias and Zara on watch duty, taking turns keeping guard. Dr. Timekeeper sat by the fire, engrossed in her studies of the symbols etched into the gnarled bark. As midnight approached, a low growl echoed through the forest, followed by the rustling of leaves and branches as something large moved closer. Elias felt his heart race, but Dr. Timekeeper's calm demeanor gave him hope that they could handle whatever lurked in the darkness. Zara, alert to every sound, drew her sword. "Stay ready," she whispered to Elias as he stepped into the underbrush, peering into the shadows. A massive beast, unlike any they had encountered before, crept closer. Its glowing eyes seemed to pierce the darkness like twin moons. Elias took a deep breath and closed his eyes, focusing on his pendant. Time seemed to slow as he reached out with his senses, trying to understand the creature's movements. Suddenly, a powerful surge of energy coursed through him as he felt the presence of another time manipulator nearby. "Something is here," Elias called out, drawing Zara and Dr. Timekeeper to his side. The trio stood back to back, ready for battle. From the darkness emerged Agent Smith, flanked by a horde of agents in identical black suits. His eyes glinted with malice as he pointed at Elias. "You are coming with me," he snarled, his voice echoing through the forest. Elias' grip on his pendant tightened as he felt his heart pound in his chest. He looked at Zara and Dr. Timekeeper, feeling a surge of determination. "We will not let them take us," he declared, facing Agent Smith. The air crackled with tension as the two sides stared each other down. Suddenly, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows, holding a staff adorned with strange symbols. The hooded stranger's voice was cold and menacing. "I have been watching you," they said to Elias. "You are not ready for the power you wield." Elias hesitated, sensing that this newcomer held secrets about his past and his powers, but he knew he couldn't trust them either. As the hooded figure reached out towards him, Elias felt a surge of energy from Dr. Timekeeper, who had been studying the symbols on her staff. "We will not let you take him," she declared, stepping between Elias and the hooded stranger. With a swift motion, she slammed her staff into the ground, sending shockwaves through the forest. The beasts surrounding them retreated in fear as the hooded figure recoiled, revealing a look of surprise on their face. Agent Smith sneered, realizing that they were not alone. "You think you can stand against me?" he taunted, raising his hand to unleash a wave of energy towards Elias and his companions. Elias gripped his pendant tightly, feeling the weight of its power in his hands. With a cry, he channeled every ounce of energy into his body, sending out a wave of time manipulation that sent Agent Smith and his agents flying back into the underbrush. The hooded figure retreated as well, their eyes filled with anger and determination. Zara took advantage of the distraction to charge towards the beasts that had been circling them, cutting a swath through their numbers. Dr. Timekeeper continued to unleash waves of energy from her staff, causing further chaos among Agent Smith's forces. As the battle raged around them, Elias felt his connection to the pendant grow stronger. He sensed that he could use its power to defeat the hooded figure and Agent Smith once and for all. But he also knew that doing so would come at a cost, one that he was not yet ready to pay. With a roar of defiance, Elias focused on the hooded stranger. As they locked eyes, he felt the weight of his past press down upon him, but he refused to give in. He reached out with his powers, seeking to understand the truth about his abilities and their connection to the strange symbols etched into the ancient tree. In that moment, Elias felt a sudden surge of insight wash over him. He saw visions of a time long past, when the ancient academy was still filled with scholars and students. He witnessed the creation of the pendant and the hidden curriculum that would one day allow its wearer to become a powerful beast. Elia's mind reeled as he tried to make sense of what he had seen. He knew that the pendant held great power, but he also sensed that it was incomplete, that there was something missing, some piece of the puzzle that would unlock its true potential. As the battle raged around them, Elias made a decision. He would not let his past define him. He would use the pendant's power to protect those he cared about and to uncover the truth about the hidden force controlling the beasts. With renewed determination, he turned back towards Agent Smith and the hooded figure. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal. Elias, Zara, and Dr. Timekeeper fought with everything they had, using their powers and skills to hold off Agent Smith's forces. The hooded figure proved to be a formidable adversary, but Elias refused to give in. In the end, it was Elias who emerged victorious. He stood over Agent Smith, his breathing heavy and his body covered in scratches and bruises. The hooded figure lay defeated at their feet, their staff shattered on the ground. As they caught their breath, Elias looked around at Zara and Dr. Timekeeper, feeling a sense of pride swell within him. Together, they had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious. But he knew that their journey was far from over. The hidden force controlling the beast still posed a threat, and they would need to uncover its secrets if they hoped to truly protect humanity. With renewed determination, Elias looked towards the future. He knew that the road ahead would be long and treacherous, but he also felt a sense of hope. For the first time since gaining his powers, he felt like he was truly in control of his destiny. And with Zara and Dr. Timekeeper by his side, he knew that they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. As dawn broke over the ancient forest, Elias turned to Zara and Dr. Timekeeper. "We have a long journey ahead," he said, his voice strong and steady. "But I am ready." Zara nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "Then let's begin," she replied, gripping her sword tightly. Dr. Timekeeper smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "We will face whatever challenges come our way," she declared, raising her staff high into the air. "Together, we are unstoppable." With that, the three of them set off towards the heart of the forest, ready to confront the hidden force controlling the beasts and unlock the secrets of the pendant. They knew that their lives had changed forever, but they also felt a sense of purpose, a reason to continue fighting for the world they loved so dearly. As they disappeared into the dense underbrush, Elias couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at the journey that lay ahead. He knew that he would face many trials and tribulations along the way, but he also felt a deep sense of hope, for in the end, he realized that his powers were not just a curse. They were a gift, one that could change the world if he was willing to embrace it. And so, with Zara and Dr. Timekeeper by his side, Elias stepped into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. He knew that the road would be long and difficult, but he also felt a sense of purpose, a reason to continue fighting for the world they loved so dearly. Fractured Time's emissary, Elias, stood at the heart of the forest, surrounded by a sea of monstrous beasts. His allies Zara, Dr. Timekeeper, and Victor stood beside him. The hooded figure emerged from the shadows, joined by Agent Smith and his army of agents. The air grew thick with tension as the two sides faced each other. Elias' heart raced, and he gripped the pendant around his neck tightly. He could sense another time manipulator among the enemy ranks, a chilling reminder that they were not alone in their powers. Dr. Timekeeper raised her staff, a glowing arc of energy crackling along its surface. The beasts growled, sensing the energy emanating from it. They snarled and lunged forward, but the ancient tree at the center of the grove burst forth with a brilliant light that sent them scurrying back. Elias' eyes widened as he realized what was happening. The ancient tree, the same one where they had found the strange symbols carved into its bark, was responding to the impending battle. He felt a surge of energy coursing through him, and his own powers seemed to amplify in response. As the two sides locked eyes, Elias sensed something within Agent Smith's gaze. A hidden fear, perhaps, or maybe a deep desire for power that he recognized all too well. In that moment, he knew this battle was not just about saving humanity. It was about choosing the kind of world they would create in its aftermath. Suddenly, Victor stepped forward, a cunning smile playing on his lips. "We have no desire to fight," he said, holding up his hands in surrender. "But if you insist on confrontation, we shall defend ourselves." Agent Smith sneered. "You think you can outmaneuver me?" I've spent years studying your kind, boy. I know every trick you could possibly pull. Elias stepped forward, his own resolve growing stronger with each passing second. I may not have been trained like you, but I have something you don't, he said, his voice filled with determination. I will do whatever it takes to protect those I care about and save humanity. The air grew heavy as the two sides prepared for battle. The beasts growled, sensing the impending conflict. Elias closed his eyes, focusing on the pendant around his neck, feeling its power growing stronger with each passing second. He could sense other time manipulators nearby, their powers intertwining with his own, amplifying them beyond anything he had ever imagined. This is where our paths diverge, Elias said, opening his eyes to meet Agent Smith's gaze once more. I will not let you destroy the world for your own desires. As the sun began its descent beyond the ancient trees, darkness enveloped the dense underbrush like a shroud. The air was thick and heavy with tension as Elias, Zara, Dr. Timekeeper, and Victor navigated through the desolate woods. Their journey had taken them far from the safety of the academy, yet they pressed on, driven by their shared determination to uncover the truth about Elias' powers. The group was exhausted, but not defeated. Each step brought them closer to the heart of the forest, where the hidden grove lay nestled amongst the gnarled roots of a massive tree that seemed to defy nature itself. The strange symbols carved into its bark whispered secrets long forgotten and hinted at ancient power. Suddenly a low growl echoed through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. Elias tensed, his senses heightening as he scanned the dense underbrush for any signs of danger. The air seemed to crackle with energy as he focused on the sound, feeling every twitch in his muscles as they prepared for battle. Keep moving, Dr. Timekeeper whispered urgently, her eyes never leaving the shadows. We're almost there. Victor, ever the politician, tried to keep a calm facade. Don't worry, we'll get through this just as we have before. We've faced worse. He forced a grin and nudged Elias playfully on the shoulder. Besides, I thought you were supposed to be the protector around here. Elias bristled at the comment but focused on moving forward, scanning the darkness with heightened awareness. The growls grew louder, more insistent. Suddenly, a monster beast emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. It was unlike any creature they had encountered before, a twisted mass of muscle and teeth that seemed to defy all logic. Zara let out a battle cry as she charged at the beast, her sword flashing in the dim light. The creature snarled and lunged, its massive claws slashing through the air with deadly precision. Elias felt his heart pounding in his chest as he watched Zara engage the beast, her every movement fluid and precise. Timekeeper quickly stepped back, raising her staff. As the beast closed in on Zara, she brought it down with a crack that echoed through the forest, sending shockwaves rippling through the air. The beast stumbled, but it didn't fall. Instead, it let out a roar of anger and charged forward once more. Elias felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through his veins as he realized they were vastly outmatched. He reached for the pendant around his neck, feeling the strange symbol etched into its surface under his fingers. As he focused on the beast, he sensed something else lurking nearby, another time manipulator like himself. Without hesitation, Elias sent a burst of energy coursing through him, feeling the world bend and twist as he transformed for the first time since the accident. His body stretched and twisted, muscles rippling beneath his skin as he grew into a towering figure with claws and teeth that would strike fear into any who beheld them. Victor's eyes widened in shock as he stared at Elias, but Zara knew this was their only hope. She fought valiantly alongside him, her sword slicing through the beast's hide as it lashed out with its massive claws. Timekeeper, her staff glowing with energy, kept the other beasts at bay while Victor retreated, searching for a way to aid them without putting himself directly in danger. The battle raged on, each moment seeming like an eternity as they fought for their lives. Elias felt his body growing tired, his muscles burning with exhaustion as he struggled to maintain his transformed state. But he refused to give up. He would protect Zara and Dr. Timekeeper no matter the cost. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the forest in shadows, a familiar figure emerged from the underbrush. Agent Smith stood before them, a cruel smile playing on his lips as he surveyed the carnage they had wrought. He raised his hand, and a horde of monstrous beasts burst forth from the darkness, surrounding them on all sides. Elias felt his heart sink as he realized their chances of survival were slim, but something within him refused to accept defeat. With one final surge of energy, he transformed once more, his body swelling with power as the strange symbol on his pendant gleamed in the moonlight. As the battle raged on, Elias found himself fighting not only the beasts and Agent Smith, but also the weight of his past, and the secrets buried deep within him. He could feel the hidden force controlling the beasts, sensing their malevolent intent as they sought to consume everything in their path. In a moment of desperation, Elias reached out with his powers, feeling the fabric of time bend and twist beneath his fingers. As he did so, the forest seemed to change around them. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper, and the beasts' roars faded until all that remained was silence. Agent Smith stood before him, his smile faltering as he stared into Elias' eyes. "You can't win," he sneered. "Your powers are nothing compared to mine." Elias felt a strange calm wash over him as he looked at Agent Smith, knowing that this battle was far from over. "Maybe not," he replied softly. "But I won't give up. Not until I save humanity." With a final roar, Elias lunged at Agent Smith, his claws flashing through the air as they clashed in the heart of the forest. The battle between them was fierce and brutal, each strike landing with a force that shook the ground beneath their feet. As the moon climbed higher into the sky, the shadows grew deep and dark, enveloping the ancient grove in an eerie stillness. The sound of their struggle echoed through the trees, a haunting reminder of the darkness lurking within the heart of the forest. And as the sun began to rise once more, Elias knew that the true battle was just beginning. Fractured Time's emissary, the sun had risen over the dense forest, casting long shadows through the underbrush. Elias stood tall and imposing amidst the ancient grove, his body glowing with a faint luminescence. The battlefield from the previous night lay silent. Monstrous beasts were scattered across the ground. Zara approached him cautiously, her eyes scanning their surroundings. "Elias," she whispered. "What happened?" He stared off into the distance, his gaze distant and haunted. I'm not sure. Agent Smith and his army of beasts. What are they after?" Zara asked, her voice tinged with concern. Elias shook his head. "It's more than just them. There's something guiding these creatures. Something darker." Zara looked around nervously, sensing danger lurking nearby. They were not alone. They had been followed. A hooded figure stepped out from the shadows, revealing a twisted smile. "You should have joined us when you had the chance," the mysterious stranger said, his voice as cold as the grave. Elias clenched his fists, readying himself for battle. Zara raised her sword, ready to defend their newfound ally. The hooded figure's eyes flickered with a strange light. He reached into his robe and pulled out a small pendant with strange symbols etched into its surface. "This is yours," he said, holding it out towards Elias. "You should have taken it when you had the chance." Elias looked at the pendant, recalling the accident that had granted him these powers in the first place. He hesitated for a moment before making his decision. "I won't let anyone control me," he said, his voice strong and determined. The hooded figure laughed coldly. "You may have defeated my army, but you cannot escape this fate." As the stranger turned to leave, Agent Smith emerged from the shadows, surrounded by a new wave of monstrous beasts. Elias' powers began to stir once more. He reached out towards the creatures, causing them to freeze in place. Zara and the mysterious stranger watched as Elias' form began to change, his body elongating and twisting into a terrifying beast. Zara's eyes widened in fear and disbelief. "Elias," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What have you done?" The transformed Elias looked down at her, his gaze filled with determination. "I will do whatever it takes to save us all." The battle against Agent Smith's army of monstrous beasts raged on as the sun began to set once more. The forest trembled beneath their feet as the two sides clashed in a fury of violence and destruction. Elias fought with newfound power, his transformed form towering over the battlefield. As night fell, Dr. Timekeeper appeared at the edge of the fight, her staff etched with strange symbols. "Elias," she called out, "we must work together if we are to defeat this hidden force." Victor watched from a distance, his eyes filled with greed and ambition. He had seen the potential in Elias' powers and knew that he could use them for his own benefit. He made his way through the battlefield, sneaking up behind Dr. Timekeeper. Elias felt the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts begin to grow stronger, sensing their movements as they attempted to break through his defenses. The battle was fierce and unrelenting, but Elias refused to back down. As the two sides clashed once more, a brilliant flash of light illuminated the heart of the forest. A strange symbol appeared in the air, shimmering with an ethereal energy. The monstrous beasts cried out in pain as they were forced to retreat, their movements becoming sluggish and disoriented. Dr. Timekeeper stood at the center of the light, her staff glowing with a fierce power. "This is the key," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "With this symbol, we can control the beasts and defeat Agent Smith." Elias looked at her, his eyes narrowing in determination. "Then let's end this once and for all." As the two sides prepared to engage in one final battle, Victor made his move. He stepped out from the shadows, brandishing a weapon of his own. "I will take these powers for myself," he declared, pointing the weapon towards Elias. Zara lunged at him, her sword flashing through the air. "You won't take what is not yours," she shouted as they fought for control of the symbol. The battle raged on, its outcome uncertain as the two sides clashed once more. But as they battled, Elias began to sense something different about himself. He felt a strange connection to the forest and the hidden force that controlled the beasts. A part of him longed to join with it, to merge with the power that coursed through his veins. As the final moments of the battle approached, Elias made his decision. He reached out towards the hidden force, feeling its presence grow stronger within him. With a cry of defiance, he transformed once more, growing even larger and more powerful as he merged with the dark energy that surrounded them. Agent Smith watched in horror as Elias' form changed before his eyes. "No," he whispered, realizing the true power that now lay in Elias' hands. "This cannot be." As the battle reached its climax, Elias charged at Agent Smith, his newfound power radiating from him in waves. The two clashed once more, their powers colliding in a brilliant explosion of light and energy. The forest trembled beneath their feet as the battle reached its crescendo. The hidden force was now fully within Elias' control. He felt invincible as he fought against Agent Smith and his army of monstrous beasts. With a final cry, Elias sent a surge of energy towards Agent Smith, obliterating him and his army in an instant. The forest fell silent once more, the battle finally at an end. Elias looked around the devastated landscape, feeling a strange sense of emptiness wash over him. He had saved humanity from destruction, but at what cost? His transformation had changed him forever. He was no longer just a man. He was now a creature of immense power and potential, a being capable of great good or great evil. As the sun began to rise once more, Elias looked towards Dr. Timekeeper, who approached him cautiously. "We must find a way to control this power," she said, her eyes filled with concern. "It is too dangerous to let it consume you." Elias nodded, sensing the truth in her words. He knew that he would need help if he was to truly master his powers and keep them under control. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead and work towards finding a way back to their ordinary lives. With the battle won but the war far from over, Elias and Dr. Timekeeper prepared to face whatever came next. The future remained uncertain, but they were not alone. They had each other and the strength of their newfound powers. As the sun continued to rise, they knew that they would do whatever it took to protect humanity and find a way back to the life they once knew. As dawn breaks over the dense forest, the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The remnants of the battle from the previous night still litter the ground, evidence of a fierce struggle between humans and monstrous beasts. Elias stands amidst the destruction, his body glowing faintly as he tries to control this newfound power coursing through him. Suddenly, Agent Smith bursts forth from the underbrush, flanked by an army of agents armed with strange weapons designed to counteract Elias' abilities. He sneers at Elias, who clenches his fists in anger. "I knew you wouldn't be able to resist the temptation," Agent Smith taunts, striding towards him. Zara and Dr. Timekeeper, healing from their wounds, watch from a distance, unsure of what to do. Victor stands nearby, watching with cold calculation as he plots his next move. The mysterious stranger remains hidden in the shadows, observing silently. Elias charges at Agent Smith, his new form granting him incredible speed and agility. A fierce battle ensues between the two, each fighting with everything they have. Elias' enhanced strength allows him to hold his own against Agent Smith's agents, but he struggles to keep up with the organization's leader. In the heat of the fight, Elias feels a strange connection to the force controlling the monstrous beasts. He hesitates for a moment, unsure whether this connection is friend or foe. The hidden force speaks to him telepathically, urging him to embrace his new power and merge with it fully. As he struggles against Agent Smith's attacks, Elias succumbs to the temptation. With a surge of energy, his form shifts once more, growing larger and more powerful. His eyes glow brightly as he transforms into a being that dwarfs even the largest monstrous beasts. Agent Smith recoils in shock, his army of agents scrambling to defend themselves against the new threat. Elias lets out a roar that shakes the trees around him, and with a swift motion, he obliterates Agent Smith and his army. The battlefield is silent once more, save for the sound of crumbling bodies and the distant rustle of leaves as the monstrous beasts retreat into the heart of the forest. Elias stands amidst the destruction, panting heavily as he tries to regain control over his new form. He turns to Zara, Dr. Timekeeper, and Victor, who have approached cautiously. "We must find a way to control this power," Elias says, gripping the pendant around his neck tightly. Dr. Timekeeper nods solemnly. "I believe I may have a solution." She leads them towards the hidden laboratory deep within the ancient academy, promising to help Elias understand and control his powers before they destroy him. The group travels through the dense forest, their journey fraught with danger as they encounter more monstrous beasts lurking nearby. The mysterious stranger remains by Elias' side, offering guidance and support as they make their way towards the academy. As they near their destination, a hooded figure appears before them, blocking their path. "You cannot reach the laboratory without my permission," the figure says coldly. Elias glares at the figure, feeling a surge of anger at this new obstacle. But as he looks into the figure's eyes, he senses the connection between them once more. "I will not be controlled," Elias growls, refusing to back down. The hooded figure laughs, revealing herself as an agent of the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts. She offers him a deal: join her and gain access to the laboratory, or continue on his own and risk being hunted by both humans and monstrous creatures. Elias hesitates, torn between the promise of power and the danger that comes with it. The mysterious stranger steps forward, urging him to trust her. "You are the key to saving humanity," she whispers, placing a hand on his shoulder. Fractured Time's emissary in the heart of the desolate woods, Elias and Dr. Timekeeper trudged through dense underbrush, the gnarled tree adorned with strange symbols looming ahead. A sense of dread permeated the air, as if something watched them from unseen vantage points. "We're getting close," said Dr. Timekeeper, her eyes never straying from the path. "The laboratory is just beyond this grove." Elias clutched his pendant tightly, feeling its strange symbol pulsate in time with his heartbeat. He could sense the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts nearby, drawing closer with each passing moment. "We can't let them catch us," he said, his voice tinged with urgency. "I don't know what they plan to do if they get their hands on my powers." Dr. Timekeeper nodded gravely. "We must reach the laboratory before they do." As they entered the dense grove, the trees seemed to grow darker and more twisted. Shadows flickered in their eyes, but when Elias looked closer, he saw nothing. "This way," Dr. Timekeeper said, moving deeper into the grove. "The laboratory is hidden among these ancient trees." They continued onward, weaving between massive gnarled trunks and thick foliage. The air grew colder as they ventured further in, the shadows growing bolder. Suddenly, Elias' senses flared to life. "Monstrous beasts," he murmured, his hand tightening around his pendant. "They're close." Dr. Timekeeper turned pale, her eyes wide with fear. "We must hurry." But it was too late. Pack of monstrous creatures burst from the underbrush, snarling and growling as they closed in on their prey. Elias felt the power within him stir, ready to defend himself against the onslaught. "Elias," Dr. Timekeeper shouted, grabbing his arm. "We can't fight them all." He shook her off, feeling a surge of rage and determination coursing through him. With a roar, he transformed into his strongest form, towering above the beasts. As they lunged at him, Elias lashed out with powerful strikes, sending them flying back into the underbrush. But it was no use. The pack was relentless, their numbers overwhelming him. Elias fought valiantly but soon found himself surrounded, his strength waning as the beasts closed in. Elias, Dr. Timekeeper shouted again, her voice filled with desperation. We must escape. Just then, a figure appeared from the shadows. It was the mysterious stranger who had guided him before. With swift precision, she dispatched the remaining monstrous beasts, leaving Elias and Dr. Timekeeper unharmed. Thank you, Elias panted, collapsing to his knees. How do you keep doing that? The mysterious stranger's eyes flashed with a strange light. I have my own secrets. As they caught their breath, Elias felt the hidden force controlling the beasts recede into the shadows. For now at least, they were safe, but he knew it wouldn't last long. The war between humans and monstrous creatures was far from over. Come, said the mysterious stranger, extending a gloved hand to Elias. We must find the laboratory before Agent Smith and his army catches up. Together they ventured deeper into the ancient forest, both aware that their time was running out. The path ahead was treacherous, fraught with danger and uncertainty, but for Elias there was no turning back. He would face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to master his powers and restore balance to the world. A dense forest blankets Elias and Dr. Timekeeper as they press on deeper into its heart, their steps cautious and quiet. The air is thick with tension, the forest's underbrush bristling like a living thing waiting to pounce. Their journey takes them through the ancient grove, where towering gnarled trees stretch towards the sky, their branches twisted together like a fortress. Elias pauses, feeling something watchful and sinister in the shadows. Dr. Timekeeper notices his concern and gestures to the strange symbols carved into the bark of one of the ancient trees. The symbols have been etched with such precision they seem almost alive. These markings are connected to the hidden force controlling these monstrous beasts, she explains, her voice barely above a whisper. Their power is vast and dangerous. We must tread carefully. Before Elias can respond, a sudden rustle in the underbrush causes his heart to race. He transforms into a swift creature, ready for battle, but nothing emerges from the dense foliage. It's gone, Dr. Timekeeper murmurs, her eyes scanning their surroundings. But we cannot let our guard down. They press on, navigating the winding path through the dense grove, feeling each step more treacherous than the last. As they near a massive, gnarled tree adorned with strange symbols, Elias feels a sudden presence looming behind them. He spins to face it, and his heart stops as he sees Agent Smith standing there, flanked by a group of hooded figures. Elias, Agent Smith says, his voice cold and calculating. We've been searching for you. Dr. Timekeeper steps in front of Elias protectively, her staff with symbols, etched into its surface held firmly in her hand. Back off, she warns. Agent Smith laughs. You think your little trinket can keep me away? I've been studying these artifacts for years. Elias transforms again, this time into a powerful creature capable of taking on Agent Smith and his army. The hooded figures draw weapons and surround them, their eyes gleaming with hunger. The battle begins, Elias and Dr. Timekeeper fighting tooth and nail to escape Agent Smith's clutches. But the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts has not forgotten them. From the shadows they emerge, a sea of terrifying creatures that seem to have grown stronger since their last encounter. Elias struggles to hold his own against both Agent Smith and his army of agents, as well as the relentless onslaught of monstrous beasts. Dr. Timekeeper fights bravely by his side, using her staff to fend off attackers. In a desperate moment, Elias catches sight of the mysterious stranger from their earlier encounters. She stands atop an ancient tree, watching the battle unfold with a calculated expression on her face. He calls out to her for help, but she does not move. The battle rages on, and Elias feels the odds stacking against him. His powers begin to falter under the strain of fighting both Agent Smith's army and the monstrous beasts. But just as all seems lost, Dr. Timekeeper unleashes a powerful attack that sends Agent Smith and his army reeling. The mysterious stranger descends from her perch and joins the fight, her small pendant with strange symbols glowing brightly in the darkness. Together they manage to repel the monstrous beasts and defeat Agent Smith's army. As the battle ends, Elias collapses, exhausted. Dr. Timekeeper checks him over, a worried expression on her face. The mysterious stranger steps forward, holding out a hand to help Elias up. "You have a long road ahead," she says, her voice filled with wisdom and understanding. "But you are not alone." Elias takes her hand, feeling a strange connection between them. He knows he has much to learn about the mysteries of time manipulation and his own powers, but he is ready to face whatever comes next. As they walk away from the battlefield, Elias glances back at the heart of the forest one last time. He knows that it will not be their final encounter with danger, but for now, they have won a small victory. And as long as they stand together, they may just find a way to restore balance to the timeline and save humanity. Fractured Time's emissary. The remnants of the battle lay scattered and broken around them. Elias lay prone in the dense underbrush, panting heavily from exhaustion. The mysterious stranger stood over him, one hand extended towards the collapsed scholar. "You must rest," said the stranger with a voice like distant thunder. "I can help you." Dr. Timekeeper glanced between Elias and the stranger warily, her eyes filled with concern for her student. But something about this mysterious instilled in her trust. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. The stranger hesitated before speaking. "I am a friend, of sorts." Elias stirred, his eyes fluttering open slowly. The world seemed to spin around him as he struggled to regain his senses. "What happened?" he managed to ask weakly. Dr. Timekeeper stepped closer, her face a mask of worry. "We fought off Agent Smith's army and the monstrous beasts they unleashed upon us," she explained. "But you took a beating." Elias looked up, squinting at the strange symbols etched into the bark of the ancient tree nearby. He felt a connection to them, a sense that they held the key to understanding his powers and returning to normalcy. But for now, he could only focus on staying alive. "We must find a way back to the academy," Elias whispered, his voice barely audible. "I need answers." The mysterious stranger nodded, offering a hand to help Elias up. Together, they began their trek through the dense forest, leaving the battlefield behind them as they ventured deeper into the heart of the ancient grove. As they journeyed onward, Dr. Timekeeper shared what she knew about the symbols carved into the trees and the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts. The stranger listened intently, offering only cryptic advice when asked. "You must learn to control your powers," he warned. "They are a double-edged sword." Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of his situation. He couldn't afford any more mistakes, not if he hoped to save humanity from destruction. Their journey took them through desolate woods and dense underbrush, their progress slow but steady. They faced challenges along the way, encountering monstrous beasts lurking nearby and narrowly escaping Agent Smith's army of agents. But with the mysterious stranger's help, they managed to evade danger time and time again. Finally, they arrived at the hidden laboratory, deep within the ancient academy. Dr. Timekeeper explained her research into time manipulation and the accident that granted Elias his powers. The stranger listened patiently, offering no judgment as she poured out her heart. "I created the accident," he admitted, finally, shock rippling through the room. "The hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts is mine." Elias' eyes widened in disbelief. "Why? Why did you do this?" The mysterious stranger sighed heavily. "It was an experiment gone wrong. I sought to harness the power of time manipulation, but it consumed me instead. Now I am bound by its influence." Dr. Timekeeper gasped in horror, realizing the truth about her mysterious benefactor. The implications were staggering. "You must help us undo this," Elias demanded, his voice filled with anger and determination. "If not for yourself, then for humanity." The stranger hesitated, clearly torn between duty and compassion. In the end, he nodded reluctantly. "Very well," he said softly. "Together, we can change the course of history." With newfound resolve, Elias and his allies set out to confront Agent Smith's army one last time. They fought with every ounce of strength they possessed, battling their way through the sea of monstrous beasts that threatened to overwhelm them. In the heart of the forest, they faced off against Agent Smith himself. He sneered at them, his eyes filled with malice and greed. But Elias stood tall, determined to defend what was left of humanity. The battle raged on, each side fighting for dominance. Elias transformed into various creatures, using every advantage he could muster to turn the tide in their favor. Dr. Timekeeper provided support, her staff glowing with arcane energy as she cast spells to aid them in their struggle. Finally, as the sun began to set, they managed to corner Agent Smith. He snarled at them, his eyes wild with desperation. But Elias stepped forward, determination etched into every line of his face. "You have caused enough suffering," he growled. "Now it's time for you to pay the price." Agent Smith lunged at him, but Elias was ready. He transformed into a powerful beast towering over his enemy. The two clashed in an epic struggle that shook the very foundations of the ancient academy. In the end, it was Elias who emerged victorious. Agent Smith lay defeated at his feet, defeated by the very power he had sought to control. With a final, triumphant cry, Elias collapsed to the ground, exhausted from the fight. The mysterious stranger stood over him, watching as Dr. Timekeeper tended to their wounds. He looked down at the conquered army of monstrous beasts and sighed deeply. "It is done," he whispered. "But the consequences of my actions will ripple through time for years to come." Elias looked up, his eyes filled with determination. "I will face whatever comes next," he vowed. "With your help, we can rebuild and protect humanity from any threat." The mysterious stranger nodded, offering a solemn smile. "Very well," he said softly. "Together, we shall change the course of history." As they stood there, watching the sun set over the ancient academy, Elias knew that their journey was far from over. But with newfound allies and a renewed sense of purpose, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the dense forest floor as Elias and his allies pressed deeper into the heart of the ancient grove. The air was thick with tension, their breaths visible even in the oppressive humidity. The trees towered around them, twisted and gnarled, their limbs reaching out like skeletal fingers towards the sky. Elias clutched the pendant tightly around his neck as he trudged along, trying to focus on the strange symbols etched into its surface. His mind raced with thoughts of the battles they had faced and the secrets yet to be uncovered. He couldn't shake the feeling that the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts was growing stronger, lurking just out of sight. "What do you think is waiting for us in the heart of this forest?" Zara asked, breaking the silence. Her eyes scanned the trees ahead. "I can feel something. I don't know what it is, but it feels alive." Elias took a deep breath and closed his eyes, focusing on the symbols etched into the pendant. He could sense the energy pulsing through them, almost like a heartbeat. "I believe it's connected to the source of this chaos," he replied, opening his eyes. The stranger said there was an ancient tree at the center of the grove that holds the key, undoing what has been done. Agent Smith and his army were not far behind them, their footsteps echoing through the dense underbrush as they followed their quarry's scent trail. Elias could sense their presence, even if he couldn't see or hear them, a constant reminder of the danger that loomed over him. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a battle for his powers. It felt like a battle for humanity itself. The grove's entrance finally came into view, an archway formed by intertwining tree branches that seemed to swallow the light around them. The air grew colder as they approached, and the ground beneath their feet became uneven, covered in broken roots and moss. Elias could sense something watching them from the shadows, but he pressed on, driven by determination and fear. As they entered the grove, they found themselves surrounded by towering ancient trees, their bark covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow in the gathering darkness. The air was thick with an energy unlike anything Elias had ever felt before, pulsing through his veins like blood. He could feel the weight of the past and the potential future resting on his shoulders, and he couldn't help but wonder if they were truly prepared for what lay ahead. Just as they reached the ancient tree deep in the heart of the grove, a sudden commotion erupted behind them. Elias turned to see Agent Smith and his army bursting from the underbrush, their weapons raised menacingly. Zara grabbed Elias' arm, pulling him back into the shadows as she prepared for battle. As they fought, Elias could feel the energy coursing through the symbols on the pendant, growing stronger with each passing moment. He knew that this was his chance to take control of the hidden force controlling the monstrous beasts and put an end to the chaos once and for all. But he couldn't shake the feeling that there were forces at work they didn't understand, and that the consequences of his actions would ripple through time in ways they couldn't imagine. In the heat of battle, Elias made a decision that would change everything. He reached out with his mind, connecting to the energy pulsing through the symbols on the pendant and focusing it towards Agent Smith and his army. The air around them crackled with power, and Elias could feel the hidden force responding to his call. As the battle raged on, the ancient tree seemed to come alive, its branches stretching out as if to embrace them. Elias knew that this was their chance, and he pushed himself beyond his limits, summoning every ounce of power he had within him. With a final surge of energy, he unleashed a burst of power that sent Agent Smith and his army stumbling back, dazed and disoriented. But as they caught their breath, Elias felt the hidden force fighting back, its power surging through him like a tidal wave. He could feel himself being pulled in different directions, torn between the desires of his own heart and the needs of the hidden force. It was a struggle he never imagined, a battle for control that threatened to consume him from within. In the end, it was Zara who saved him. With a roar that echoed through the grove, she charged towards the ancient tree, her sword flashing in the dim light. The hidden force recoiled at her advance, and Elias took advantage of the opening to break free from its grip. Together they stood, battered and bruised, but alive, as the hidden force retreated into the shadows. They had won the battle, but they knew that the war was far from over. The ancient tree seemed to watch them with a wisdom beyond their understanding, its branches swaying gently in the wind. Elias could feel the energy pulsing through it, connecting him to something greater than himself. As they stumbled out of the grove, battered and exhausted, Elias knew that this was just the beginning. The journey ahead would be long and difficult, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had been chosen for a purpose beyond his own understanding. He could feel the weight of humanity on his shoulders, and he knew that he would do whatever it took to save them. But as they regrouped at the edge of the dense forest, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. He knew that the hidden force had retreated for now, but he could feel its presence lingering in the darkness, waiting for its chance to strike again. And he knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with courage and determination, driven by a desire to protect those he cared about and save humanity from the chaos that threatened to consume them all. And so, with renewed purpose, Elias and his allies pressed on, venturing deeper into the heart of darkness in search of answers and redemption. They knew that the road ahead would be long and treacherous, but they were determined to see it through no matter what challenges lay ahead. For they were the last vestige of humanity, and they would do whatever it took to survive the impending apocalypse and secure a future for their people. As the sun set on another day, Elias couldn't help but wonder if he was truly prepared for what lay ahead. He knew that the journey would be fraught with danger, and that the stakes were higher than ever before. But he also knew that he had friends by his side, people who believed in him and supported him no matter what. And with their help, he knew that he could face whatever challenges came his way and emerge victorious. For now, they rested at the edge of the forest, their minds filled with thoughts of the battles yet to come. But as they looked up at the stars, they couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen, and they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united in their determination to save humanity and secure a future for all. The end of the day brought with it a sense of calm, and as they prepared to venture deeper into the heart of darkness, Elias couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose. He knew that the journey ahead would be difficult, but he also knew that he had a responsibility to those who depended on him. And with that thought in mind, he set off once more, determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead and emerge victorious. As they ventured deeper into the heart of darkness, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for them. He could feel the energy pulsing through the air, growing stronger with each passing moment, and as they reached the hidden laboratory deep within the ancient academy, he knew that this was where their journey would take a turning point. Inside the lab, they found Dr. Timekeeper, her eyes wide with surprise as she looked upon them. "You've come for me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I knew you would eventually find your way here." Elias stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "We need your help," he said, his voice steady despite the tension that filled the air. "We've been fighting against Agent Smith and this hidden force for too long, and we need to put an end to it once and for all." Dr. Timekeeper nodded slowly, her eyes filling with tears. I can help you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but I can only do so much. You must be willing to make sacrifices, to give up what you hold dear in order to save humanity. Elias stared at her for a moment, his mind racing with thoughts of the sacrifices they had already made and the ones that lay ahead. He knew that this was their last hope, their only chance to put an end to the chaos and save those they loved. And with that thought in mind, he nodded, prepared to do whatever it took to secure a future for humanity. As they worked together to uncover the secrets of time manipulation, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that something was still missing. He could feel the hidden force lurking just out of sight, its power growing stronger with each passing moment, and as they neared their goal, he knew that they would have to face it head-on if they hoped to put an end to the chaos once and for all. But as they ventured deeper into the heart of darkness, Elias began to feel a sense of unease. He could feel the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. And as they reached the final showdown, he knew that he would have to make the ultimate sacrifice if he hoped to save humanity from the darkness that threatened to consume them all. In the end, it was Elias who made the decision that would change everything. He knew that he had to give up what he held dear in order to put an end to the chaos and save those he loved. And with a final act of bravery, he sacrificed his own life, sending ripples through time that echoed across the ages. As the dust settled, Zara stood alone at the edge of the battlefield, her heart heavy with grief. She could feel the weight of humanity resting on her shoulders, and she knew that the journey ahead would be long and difficult. But she also knew that she had a responsibility to those who depended on her, and she was determined to see it through no matter what challenges lay ahead. And so, with tears in her eyes, Zara set off once more, venturing deeper into the heart of darkness in search of redemption and a future for humanity. She knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger, but she also knew that she had friends by her side, people who believed in her and supported her no matter what. And with their help, she knew that she could face whatever challenges came her way and emerge victorious. As the sun set on another day, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. She could feel the energy pulsing through the air, growing stronger with each passing moment. And as she looked up at the stars, she knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, she would face them together, united in their determination to save humanity and secure a future for all. And so was that Zara, the fierce warrior with a mysterious past, became the last hope for humanity. She stood tall and proud, ready to face whatever challenges came her way, and determined to do whatever it took to protect those she loved and save humanity from the darkness that threatened to consume them all. Fractured Time's emissary, the grove's entrance trembled and twisted, revealing a new path into the ancient forest. Elias, weakened from the battle against Agent Smith's army, stumbled forward with Zara at his side. The ground beneath them shimmered as if alive, pulsating with energy. Elias, Zara whispered, we need to rest. He nodded and leaned against a massive, gnarled tree, the pendant around his neck pulsing softly. Strange symbols carved into its bark seemed to flicker and shift like ghostly whispers. Zara approached it cautiously, running her fingers over the etchings. What do you think these are? She asked, examining them closely. I don't know, Elias replied weakly, but they feel familiar. Suddenly, a hooded figure materialized out of thin air near the tree, causing Zara to draw her sword. The figure stepped forward, revealing a mysterious stranger, his eyes piercing into their very souls. I have been watching you, he said with a sinister smile. You possess great power, and I will take it. Elias gritted his teeth, struggling to regain control of his powers. He glanced at the pendant around his neck, feeling its familiar warmth. I won't let you have my powers, he growled, standing up. And neither will Zara. The stranger raised a hand and monstrous beasts erupted from the underbrush surrounding them. Elias transformed into a powerful beast, roaring defiantly as Zara joined him in battle against the army of creatures. As they fought, their powers grew stronger, unleashing devastating attacks on the beasts. But the stranger stood amidst the chaos, his eyes glowing malevolently as he watched them struggle. You will never escape me, he cackled, disappearing into the darkness. Elias and Zara fought tirelessly against the monstrous horde, but their powers were waning. The forest seemed to grow darker, closing in around them. Despair gnawed at Elias' heart as he realized they might not make it out alive. Then, a sudden surge of energy coursed through him, and he felt the pendant around his neck pulse once more. His powers surged back, allowing him to transform into an even more powerful beast. With renewed vigor, Elias and Zara pushed forward, defeating wave after wave of beasts. They fought their way towards the heart of the forest, desperate to find a way out. But they knew that the stranger would not give up so easily. Finally, they reached the ancient tree at the heart of the grove, its strange symbols glowing brightly in the darkness. Elias felt an overwhelming sense of power emanating from it, and he knew that their salvation lay within. Elias' eyes fluttered open as he awoke to the sound of leaves rustling in the wind. The gnarled tree loomed before him, its strange symbols casting eerie patterns on his face. Zara sat beside him, her sword at the ready. "We need to keep moving," Elias whispered hoarsely. "My powers are returning." Zara nodded, her eyes never leaving their surroundings. "Be prepared for anything." A sudden rustling in the underbrush caught their attention. They exchanged a glance and stood up, ready for whatever lay ahead. As they entered the dense forest, they noticed more strange symbols etched into the ancient trees lining the path, a trail that led deeper into the heart of the woods. The air grew thicker with each step, as if it held an energy that hummed within their veins. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the forest. Elias' senses heightened, his powers surging once more. He transformed into a creature of shadows and speed, darting ahead to investigate. Zara followed close behind, her sword glowing with an ethereal light. They found themselves in front of an enormous ancient tree, its branches stretching towards the sky like skeletal fingers. The strange symbols carved into its bark seemed to pulse with a power that radiated outwards. Elias approached cautiously, feeling a sense of awe and fear as he gazed upon the ancient relic. As he reached for the tree, a voice echoed through his mind, "The key lies within you." Suddenly, a hidden door in the tree's trunk opened, revealing a hidden laboratory filled with strange devices and ancient artifacts. Elias stepped inside, Zara at his side. They found themselves face to face with Dr. Timekeeper, who looked up from her worktable with a knowing smile. "Welcome," she said. "I've been waiting for you." Elias stared at the scientist in confusion and anger. "Who are you?" he demanded. "I am the Keeper of Time," Dr. Timekeeper replied. "And I have been studying your abilities for years. You are not the first to possess them, but you may be the last." Zara stepped forward protectively, her sword at the ready. "What do you want with us?" she asked menacingly. Dr. Timekeeper leaned back in her chair, her eyes never leaving Elias. "I offer you a choice," she said. "Join me and help save humanity from itself, or continue down your current path, which will ultimately lead to destruction." Elias felt a surge of anger at the audacity of this woman, but something in her words resonated deep within him. He hesitated, torn between his duty to protect humanity and the promise of a solution to the problems that plagued them all. As he stood there, the laboratory shook violently. A hooded figure entered through the hidden door, accompanied by an army of monstrous beasts. Elias transformed into a creature of flame and fury, ready to protect himself and Zara at all costs. The battle that ensued was fierce and brutal. Monstrous beasts lunged at them from every direction, their snarls and growls filling the air. Elias and Zara fought back with everything they had, their powers surging as they battled for survival. But amidst the chaos, they felt something guiding the beasts, a hidden force that seemed to control their movements, leading them towards Elias and Zara, like a pack of hungry wolves. As the battle raged on, Agent Smith appeared at the entrance of the laboratory, his cold eyes locked onto Elias' face. "I've been waiting for you," he snarled. Elias felt his resolve harden. He transformed into a creature of lightning and thunder, ready to confront the man who had caused so much pain and destruction. With Zara by his side, he prepared to face Agent Smith and his army of monstrous beasts in one final battle for control of their own destinies. As they fought, Elias felt something within him grow stronger, a power that seemed to resonate with the ancient tree and its strange symbols. He tapped into this newfound energy, transforming into a creature of pure energy that towered over his enemies. The battle raged on, but in the end, it was Elias who emerged victorious. He stood tall, surrounded by the wreckage of Agent Smith's army and the carnage they had left behind. Zara approached him, her eyes filled with tears. "We did it," she whispered hoarsely. Elias nodded, his gaze fixed on the ancient tree before them. He felt a sense of purpose wash over him, a newfound determination to save humanity and uncover the truth about the strange symbols that had led them here. Fractured Time's emissary, the forest seemed to breathe around them as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows through the dense underbrush. Elias's eyes flickered with a newfound power as he stood beside Zara, gazing at the ancient grove before them. The gnarled tree, adorned with strange symbols, loomed in front of them like an ancient sentinel. "We need to get to the heart of the forest," Elias said, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. "Something is guiding these beasts." Zara nodded, her expression grim. "I'll watch your back." The duo ventured deeper into the dense woods, moving carefully as they navigated the treacherous terrain. The sounds of snarling and growling grew louder as they approached the heart of the forest. Suddenly, a monstrous beast lunged from the underbrush, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Elias transformed in an instant, his body morphing into a massive bird of prey, swift and deadly. The beast roared in surprise before he swooped down, talons outstretched, tearing into its flesh effortlessly. Zara watched the battle unfold from afar, her eyes never leaving Elias as he fought. She had seen him transform before, but this time was different. He moved with a newfound grace and power that sent shivers down her spine. After the creature lay defeated, Elias shifted back to his human form, panting heavily. "We need to keep moving," Zara said, her voice tinged with urgency. More of those things are coming. As they continued their journey through the forest, they encountered several more beasts, but each time Elias proved more than a match for them. However, it was clear that the number of creatures seemed to be increasing exponentially. The duo began to feel the pressure as they pushed further into the heart of the forest. "Something is controlling these beasts," Elias muttered to himself, his eyes scanning the dense canopy above them. "We need to find out what it is." Suddenly, a hooded figure emerged from the shadows, a strange symbol etched into its staff. Zara's grip tightened on her weapon as she stared at the figure, her heart racing. "You shouldn't have come," the figure said, its voice cold and emotionless. "Your powers are too dangerous." Elias stepped forward, his eyes flashing with determination. "We won't let you take them from us." The hooded figure smiled, revealing a mouth full of sharp teeth. "It will be impossible to stop me." A battle ensued, the duo fighting tooth and nail against their mysterious foe. Elias transformed into various creatures, each one more powerful than the last, but the hooded figure seemed to anticipate his every move, dodging and countering with ease. Zara fought valiantly beside him, but it was clear they were no match for this enemy. Just when all hope seemed lost, a strange energy pulsed through Elias's body. He transformed into a being of pure light, shimmering and powerful. The hooded figure recoiled, its expression one of fear as the light enveloped them both. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, and the forest fell silent. The hooded figure vanished in a burst of energy, leaving Elias standing alone in the heart of the forest. He looked down at his hand, where the pendant with strange symbols was now glowing brightly. A feeling of purpose washed over him as he realized what had happened. The pendant held the key to stopping this threat and restoring balance to the timeline. "We have to find Dr. Timekeeper," Elias said, turning to Zara. "She can help us." As Elias and Zara approached a dense grove within the forest, a sudden commotion caught their attention. They found themselves surrounded by a horde of monstrous beasts, each one larger and more terrifying than the last. The air crackled with an ominous energy as they prepared for battle. Elias's heart raced, his senses heightened. He knew he must think quickly to survive. Summoning forth his powers, he transformed into a massive creature of thunder, lightning coursing through every vein. Zara stood by his side, her own transformation complete, a powerful beast of wind and shadow. "We have come too far to let these creatures take us now," she declared. Together they charged at the horde, their combined might shaking the very earth beneath them. Elias unleashed bolts of lightning that incinerated several beasts, while Zara's gusts of wind sent others careening through the air like ragdolls. But despite their efforts, the endless sea of monstrosities seemed relentless, more pouring forth from the darkness as if summoned by some unseen force. "We need to find a way to stop this," Elias shouted above the chaos. "The pendant may hold the key." Zara nodded, her eyes fixed on the beasts before them. "Then we'll find it," she replied, determination etched into every line of her face. As they continued to fight, Elias found himself drawn to a strange symbol etched onto one of the ancient trees nearby. He felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through him, and his perception expanded exponentially. Suddenly, he understood. The symbols were the key to controlling these beasts. If he could figure out their sequence, he might be able to turn the tide of battle. With newfound focus, Elias began studying the symbols, searching for patterns amidst the chaos. Zara fought valiantly by his side, keeping the monstrous horde at bay as best she could. The air grew thick with the scent of ozone and blood, and Elias knew they were running out of time. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, Agent Smith, leading an army of agents clad in armor that seemed to shimmer with an eerie light. He sneered at Elias, his eyes glinting maliciously in the darkness. "I've been waiting for you," he snarled, brandishing a staff adorned with symbols similar to those on the ancient trees. "You think you can control these beasts? I have the true power here." Elias clenched his fists, feeling the pendant around his neck pulse against his skin. He knew what he had to do. He had to confront Agent Smith and take back control of this world. But first, he needed to figure out the sequence of symbols that would allow him to command these monstrous beasts. The battle raged on, a whirlwind of violence and destruction as Elias and Zara fought against both the monstrous horde and Agent Smith's army of agents. As he studied the symbols, Elias began to see patterns emerging, sequences that seemed to correspond with the movements of the beasts themselves. He knew he was close, but every moment they spent battling only bought them fewer chances to escape alive. Finally, the sequence became clear, a series of 5 symbols arranged in a specific order. Elias felt a rush of adrenaline as he focused on the pendant, his mind connecting with the beast's collective consciousness. He spoke the sequence aloud, and the monstrous horde began to falter, their movements slowing as they lost their cohesion. With a final, desperate effort, Elias and Zara fought their way through the remaining beasts, pushing towards the heart of the forest. They could feel Agent Smith's anger growing, his magic crackling in the air around them. But they refused to give up. They had come too far to let this monster take everything they held dear. As they reached the center of the forest, Elias felt a strange presence within the ancient tree that towered over them. He knew it was the source of all the power he had encountered so far, the key to restoring balance and saving humanity. But as they approached, a mysterious stranger emerged from the shadows, his eyes locked onto Elias and Zara with a hunger that made their blood run cold. "You have what I want," the stranger hissed, brandishing a small pendant with strange symbols etched into its surface. "And I will not rest until I take it." Elias' grip tightened around the pendant around his neck, knowing that this was the final test, one they must pass if they were to have any hope of surviving this ordeal. As the stranger lunged at them, Elias and Zara stood their ground, determined to protect the pendant and unlock the ancient tree's power. The battle that followed was fierce, a clash of magic and willpower as the 3 combatants fought for control of the pendant and the fate of humanity itself. But in the end it was Elias who emerged victorious, his newfound understanding of the symbols allowing him to vanquish the stranger and claim the power within the ancient tree. With the pendant secure, Elias felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had finally done what he set out to do. He turned to Zara, her eyes shining with pride and relief. "We did it," she whispered, wrapping her arms around him as they stood beneath the towering ancient tree. But even as they celebrated their victory, Elias knew that their journey was far from over. The world was still filled with danger, and they would need to find Dr. Timekeeper if they were to truly understand the power they now held and restore balance to the timeline. Together they set off once more, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they walked deeper into the heart of the forest, Elias couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at the incredible journey he had been on since that fateful day when he gained his powers. He knew there would be many more battles ahead, but he also knew that with Zara by his side and the power within the pendant, they could overcome anything. Fractured Time's emissary. In the dense underbrush of a desolate woods, Elias and Zara rested warily near the ancient tree they had fought by just days ago. The air was thick with tension as they contemplated their next move. I can sense something. It's growing stronger, Elias muttered, his eyes flickering with concern. We must press on. Zara nodded, gripping her weapon tightly. What do you think the hidden force controlling those beasts wants? I don't know, Elias replied. But I have a feeling that we're about to find out. As they entered the heart of the forest, they were surrounded by an endless sea of monstrous beasts. Fear gripped them both as they realized how far they had come and what they must still face. But they pressed on, determined not to let this new challenge break their resolve. A hooded figure stepped from the shadows, a sinister smile spreading across its face. You should have stayed hidden, it hissed. Your powers are too dangerous. Elias braced himself as Zara took up a defensive stance beside him. The hooded figure raised a hand, and a horde of monstrous beasts lunged at them from every direction. We won't let you take us out like this, Zara shouted, slashing through the air with her sword. Elias summoned his powers, transforming into a massive winged beast to take on the horde. As they battled, the hooded figure retreated, watching as Elias and Zara fought valiantly against the monstrous beasts. But when it seemed they were about to be overwhelmed, a new figure appeared, the mysterious stranger from their past. I can help you, he said, offering his hand to Elias. But first, we must defeat Agent Smith and his army. Elias hesitated for only a moment before grasping the stranger's hand, feeling a surge of energy course through him. Together they transformed into even more powerful beings, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they emerged from the dense forest, they found themselves in the heart of the ancient academy. Agent Smith stood atop the highest tower, surrounded by his army of agents. Elias, he called out, his voice filled with venom. Come join me, and we can rule this world together. But Elias knew that could never be. With Zara by his side, they charged toward Agent Smith, determined to end this battle once and for all. The final confrontation was fierce, but Elias and the mysterious stranger proved to be formidable opponents. They fought with every ounce of strength they possessed, determined to save humanity from destruction. In a climactic moment, Elias struck Agent Smith down, sending him plummeting into the abyss below. The army of agents disintegrated, leaving only the mysterious stranger standing before them. I never intended for this to happen, he said, his eyes filled with regret. But I couldn't let you continue using your powers unchecked. Elias stared at him, unsure if he could trust this mysterious figure. But as he looked out over the ruins of the ancient academy, he realized that their journey was far from over. A dense underbrush of a desolate woods swallowed them whole, the air thick with the scent of decay. The monstrous horde seemed relentless, advancing ever closer. Elias clutched his pendant tightly as he transformed into a swarm of wasps, buzzing in sync with Zara's growls and snarls. The beasts recoiled at their approach, but they didn't back down. We must find the ancient academy, Elias yelled over the deafening roar of battle. Dar. Timekeeper can help us understand what we've become. Zara nodded, slicing through a beast with her claws, sending it sprawling to the ground. As they pushed forward, more beasts appeared, their numbers seemingly endless. The mysterious stranger fought at their side, his eyes flickering with an ethereal light. I've been watching you, he said, his voice low and grave. The power within Elias is unlike anything I've ever seen. You must be careful how you wield it. What do you want from us? Zara demanded, her eyes narrowing. He hesitated before replying, I seek a balance between man and beast. Elias can restore the world to its original state, but he risks becoming consumed by his powers if he doesn't understand them fully. The mysterious stranger fought beside them, keeping the beasts at bay as they made their way deeper into the forest. As night fell, they finally reached the dense grove that Elias and Zara had visited before. A hidden door in the tree's trunk led to a hidden laboratory filled with strange devices and ancient artifacts. Dr. Timekeeper sat hunched over a table, her eyes wide as she gazed upon them. Elias, you're alive, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. But how is this possible? I thought. I was granted the power within the ancient tree. Elias explained, feeling a mix of anger and sorrow at her initial reaction. We need your help to understand it. Dr. Timekeeper nodded slowly, her eyes filled with determination. I'll do everything in my power to help you control these powers, but I can't guarantee that they won't change you forever. As the days passed, Elias and Zara learned more about their transformations from Dr. Timekeeper, pushing themselves to their limits as they practiced controlling their newfound abilities. The mysterious stranger remained ever watchful, his true intentions still a mystery, but as the battles against Agent Smith's army grew more intense, the stakes became clear. Elias and Zara needed to understand their powers if they hoped to save humanity from destruction. With every transformation and each new revelation about their powers, Elias felt a growing sense of unease. He yearned for his ordinary life, but knew that he couldn't return until the world was safe once more. As the final battle loomed, Elias vowed to make the ultimate sacrifice if it meant restoring balance and protecting those he cared about most. With renewed determination, Elias and Zara prepared themselves for their confrontation with Agent Smith and his army, knowing that the fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. They would face the greatest challenge yet, but they were not alone. The mysterious stranger stood by their side, ready to help them in any way he could. Together, they would fight for a chance at redemption and a future where monstrous beasts no longer threatened mankind's existence. The battle raged on, with Elias and Zara transforming into powerful beings that rivaled even Agent Smith's army. The mysterious stranger fought by their side, using his ethereal powers to shield them from harm. As the tide of battle turned in their favor, they pressed forward, determined to end this conflict once and for all. In a climactic showdown, Elias faced off against Agent Smith, his eyes blazing with power as he called forth every ounce of energy within him. Zara fought beside him, her claws slashing through the air as she took down wave after wave of monstrous beasts. The mysterious stranger stood at their side, a constant presence in the chaos. As the battle reached its peak, Elias felt a surge of power coursing through his veins. He knew what he must do to end this once and for all. He would make the ultimate sacrifice. With a roar that echoed throughout the ancient forest, Elias transformed into a being of pure energy, channeling every ounce of power within him into a single blast that obliterated Agent Smith and his army. In the aftermath, the forest was silent save for the sound of their ragged breathing. Elias slowly descended from his celestial form, feeling drained but knowing that he had done what needed to be done. Zara rushed to his side, concern etched into every line of her face. The mysterious stranger watched as well, a somber expression on his face. "You've saved the world," Dr. Timekeeper said softly, tears streaming down her cheeks, "but at a terrible cost." Elias nodded, looking out over the devastation that was once an army of monstrous beasts. He felt the pendant around his neck, its strange symbol glowing faintly in the moonlight. "I know," he whispered, feeling the weight of what he had done settling on his shoulders. As the dawn broke, Elias knew that there would still be challenges ahead, but for now, he could rest easy knowing that humanity was safe. He looked at Zara and the mysterious stranger, grateful for their support throughout this journey. Together, they had faced insurmountable odds and come out victorious. As the sun rose over the ancient forest, Elias felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew that he would never be the same man he once was, but he also knew that he wouldn't have it any other way. He had fought for something greater than himself, and in doing so, found purpose and meaning in his new life as an emissary of fractured time. Fractured Time's emissary, the air crackled with tension as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows on the dense forest floor. Elias stood at the grove's entrance, flanked by Zara and the mysterious stranger. The gnarled tree before them bore strange symbols carved into its bark, beckoning them to enter the ancient academy hidden within. As they stepped forward, a sudden rustle in the underbrush caught their attention. Elias' eyes narrowed, his heart racing as he sensed danger lurking nearby. A monstrous beast emerged from the shadows, its eyes glowing with an unholy light. The creature bared its sharp teeth and growled menacingly. Zara immediately sprang into action, her sword slicing through the air as she charged at the beast. The mysterious stranger followed suit, a staff etched with symbols in hand. Elias, still hesitant to use his powers, focused on finding an escape route while keeping watch over their allies. The battle raged on, each swing of Zara's sword and strike from the mysterious stranger sending shockwaves through the beast's massive frame. Yet it seemed unfazed by their attacks, continuing to close in on them relentlessly. Elias watched anxiously as his friends fought for their lives. Suddenly the ground shook violently, sending a wave of dirt and debris cascading down upon them. Emerging from the chaos was Agent Smith, flanked by an army of monstrous beasts. The hooded figure stood beside him, sneering at Elias with cold eyes. "You thought you could escape me, boy," Agent Smith taunted, brandishing a staff adorned with strange symbols etched into its surface. "Your powers are mine now." Zara and the mysterious stranger fought valiantly, but they were no match for the combined might of Agent Smith and his army. Elias knew he had to act fast if he wanted to save them. With a deep breath, Elias reached out with his mind, his powers coursing through him like electricity. He focused on the symbols carved into the ancient tree, feeling a strange connection forming within him. With a burst of energy, he transformed into a being of pure energy, towering above his friends and enemies alike. Agent Smith's eyes widened in shock as Elias unleashed a devastating blast that obliterated the monstrous horde before them. The hooded figure retreated, disappearing into the dense forest as the dust settled. Zara and the mysterious stranger looked up at Elias, their faces filled with awe and fear. "Elias, what have you done?" Zara asked, her voice trembling. "I had no choice," Elias replied, his voice barely audible. "I had to protect us all." The mysterious stranger looked at him knowingly. "You've become more powerful than any of us imagined, but remember, power comes with a price. You must be careful not to let it consume you." A dense underbrush blanketed the desolate woods. As the sun set, a sinister presence lurked nearby. The air grew thick with tension as Elias and Zara approached the ancient grove. "I can sense something. I don't like it," whispered Elias, his eyes scanning their surroundings. Zara nodded, clutching her sword tightly. "We have to find out what it is." The pair continued forward, pushing through the thick underbrush. The air grew colder as they neared the heart of the forest. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the trees. "That can't be good," muttered Elias, his senses on high alert. As they emerged from the dense undergrowth, a monstrous beast loomed before them, its eyes glowing red, teeth bared in a snarl. Elias felt his heart race as he prepared to transform, but something held him back. He glanced at Zara, who stared down the creature with determination burning in her eyes. "We can handle this," she said, raising her sword. "Let's do it together." Elias nodded, and they charged. The battle was fierce, each strike and counter a dance of survival. As the beast began to gain the upper hand, Elias felt a sudden surge of power coursing through his veins. He transformed, unleashing an energy wave that sent the beast flying back. Exhausted but victorious, Elias and Zara caught their breaths. The forest grew eerily quiet as they looked around, sensing that the danger was far from over. "We should keep moving," said Elias, his eyes scanning for any signs of more creatures. "Something's guiding them." Zara nodded in agreement, and the pair pressed deeper into the forest, their senses on high alert as they searched for answers. They soon found themselves at the heart of the forest, where an ancient tree stood tall and proud. Strange symbols were etched into its bark, glowing faintly with a mysterious energy. "What is this place?" whispered Elias, his eyes wide with wonder and fear. Zara shook her head, her sword at the ready. "I don't know, but we have to find out." As they approached the tree, a hooded figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking their path. Elias' heart raced as he recognized the hooded figure from previous encounters. "Elias," the figure sneered, "I've been waiting for you." Elias tightened his grip on his pendant, feeling the strange symbol pulsing with energy. He knew that this was a turning point, one that could decide the fate of not only himself but humanity itself. "You won't take my powers," Elias said, standing tall. "I will stop you." The hooded figure laughed coldly. "Oh, I have no intention of taking them myself, but I know someone who would be more than willing to." Elias felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the gravity of the situation. He knew that he had to make a choice, one that could alter the course of history forever. As they faced off, Elias and the hooded figure exchanged no words, their eyes locked in a battle of wills. The air crackled with tension as the fate of the world hung in the balance. Fractured Time's emissary, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the grove was plunged into darkness. A sinister presence lingered, casting eerie shadows across Elias and Zara's faces as they stood before the ancient tree. The hooded figure materialized from the dense underbrush, a knowing smile playing upon their lips. "I have been waiting for you," the figure murmured, eyes fixed on Elias' pendant. "You may not understand your true potential yet, but I can help you unlock it." Elias hesitated, sensing something ominous about this stranger and the strange symbols etched into the ancient tree's bark. Zara, her senses sharpened by years of combat, tensed at his side. "What do you want from us?" she growled. "I wish to harness your powers for my own ends." The figure replied calmly, "But I can offer you something in return: knowledge. Together, we could change the course of history." Elias' mind raced, grappling with the implications of joining forces with this stranger. Zara eyed him warily, her instincts telling her that this was a dangerous proposition. Suddenly, a chorus of growls echoed through the forest, growing louder by the second. The ground trembled beneath their feet as a horde of monstrous beasts erupted from the underbrush, snarling and baring their fangs. "They are mine," the hooded figure hissed, stepping back. "I will deal with them." With that, they vanished into thin air, leaving Elias and Zara to face the incoming horde alone. Elias transformed, his body rippling with energy as he took on a new form, a towering beast with razor-sharp claws and scales that shimmered like moonlight. Zara followed suit, her body elongating and hardening into a sleek, armored predator. Together, they stood their ground against the monstrous horde. The battle raged on, Elias and Zara deftly dodging and parrying the creature's attacks, while unleashing devastating blows of their own. But the beasts seemed endless, an unending sea of teeth and claws that threatened to overwhelm them at any moment. As they fought, Elias felt a familiar presence nearby, sensing the influence of the hidden force controlling these beasts. In a desperate gambit, he focused his energies, channeling every ounce of strength into a massive energy wave that engulfed both the monstrous horde and the mysterious stranger. The forest shook violently as the two forces clashed, the energy wave washing over Elias and Zara like a tidal surge. When the dust settled, only Elias remained standing, the stranger nowhere to be found. The beasts lay defeated at his feet, their bodies smoking from the force of the blast. Exhausted but victorious, Elias looked around, searching for any sign of the mysterious figure. All was silent, save for the wind rustling through the ancient trees. "We must find Dr. Timekeeper," Zara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She may hold the key to stopping this hidden force." With that, they set off deeper into the forest, their path illuminated by the dying embers of the defeated beasts. As they journeyed through the dense woods, Elias felt a growing sense of unease. He knew that their battle was far from over. The hidden force controlling these monstrous creatures would not give up so easily. But he also knew that he had made a choice, one that could change the course of history forever. The forest seemed to grow darker as they ventured deeper, the ancient trees looming ominously overhead. Elias clutched his pendant tightly, feeling its strange symbol pulsating against his skin. He could sense the power coursing through him, waiting to be unleashed should he ever need it again. As they approached of the forest, they found themselves standing before a massive, gnarled tree adorned with the same symbols that had drawn them here in the first place. A hidden door was carved into its trunk, leading to a labyrinthine series of tunnels and chambers within. "This must be the laboratory Dr. Timekeeper spoke of," Zara murmured, her eyes wide with awe. "We must find her and convince her to help us." With renewed determination, they pushed open the hidden door and ventured into the darkness. The labyrinthine corridors twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the heart of the ancient academy. As they delved further, they encountered strange devices and ancient artifacts that seemed out of place in this era. Elias could sense a powerful energy coursing through these relics, the same force that had driven the monstrous beasts. At last, they reached the hidden laboratory deep within the academy's heart, where Dr. Timekeeper awaited them. "Ah, I have been expecting you," she said, her eyes twinkling with a mix of curiosity and amusement. "I hear you've had quite the adventure." "We need your help," Elias said urgently. There's a hidden force controlling these monstrous beasts, and it's threatening to consume humanity. Dr. Timekeeper nodded solemnly, her expression serious for once. I know what you're up against, she replied. I can help you, but at a price. Elias hesitated, sensing the weight of this decision. He knew that he couldn't afford to be cautious any longer. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. With a deep breath, he nodded his agreement. Very well, Dr. Timekeeper said, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. You must trust me completely. She reached out, taking hold of Elias' pendant and the strange symbol etched into its surface. As she did so, a surge of energy coursed through him, one that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Now, Dr. Timekeeper said, her eyes locked on his. We will face this hidden force together. And with that, they prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of humanity. The battlefield stretched out before them, a desolate expanse of twisted trees and smoking ruins. On one side stood Elias and Zara, their bodies glowing with power as they faced off against the monstrous horde controlled by the hidden force. On the other, Agent Smith and his army of agents, armed with powerful weapons and determined to capture Elias at all costs. The battle began in a flurry of attacks, Elias and Zara unleashing devastating blows against the beasts while Agent Smith's forces fought back with equal ferocity. The air crackled with energy as both sides clashed, the ground shaking beneath their feet with each strike. As the battle raged on, Elias felt a growing sense of unease. Something was off. He could feel the hidden force manipulating the beasts' movements, guiding them like puppets through the chaos. He knew that he couldn't rely on brute strength alone to win this battle. He needed to find a way to break free from their control. In a desperate gambit, Elias focused his energies, channeling every ounce of power into a massive energy wave that engulfed both the monstrous horde and Agent Smith's forces. The forest shook violently as the two forces clashed, the energy wave washing over Elias and Zara like a tidal surge. When the dust settled, only Elias remained standing, Agent Smith nowhere to be found. The beasts lay defeated at his feet, their bodies smoking from the force of the blast. Exhausted but victorious, Elias looked around, searching for any sign of the mysterious figure controlling the monstrous creatures. All was silent, save for the wind rustling through the ancient trees. You underestimated me, a voice whispered in his mind, sending shivers down his spine. I am everywhere and nowhere. Elias turned, sensing the presence of the hidden force all around him. It had been manipulating the battle from behind the scenes. Who are you? He demanded, his anger growing with each passing second. The figure's voice was cold and calculating. I am the architect of time, the master of reality itself, and I will not be denied. Elias knew that they were in a race against time. If he couldn't find a way to break free from this hidden force's control, humanity would be lost. With newfound determination, he focused his energies, channeling every ounce of power into a final, desperate attempt to regain control over his own destiny. The force howled in rage as Elias' energy wave crashed against it, sending shockwaves rippling through the forest. The monstrous horde shuddered and dissipated, leaving behind nothing but empty air. But the hidden force held fast, refusing to be defeated so easily. In a final, desperate move, Elias reached out with his mind, seeking to connect with the hidden force on a deeper level. He could feel its power surging through him, threatening to overwhelm him completely, but he pressed on, determined to find a way to break free. As the connection grew stronger, Elias felt something change within him. He was no longer just a vessel for this immense power, but a true master of it. With newfound confidence, he focused his energies and unleashed a massive energy wave that enveloped the hidden force, banishing it from this realm forever. Exhausted but triumphant, Elias collapsed to his knees, panting heavily as the forest fell silent around him. Zara rushed to his side, her eyes wide with worry. Are you all right? She asked softly. I think so, he replied, a smile playing upon his lips despite his weariness. We did it. He looked up at the ancient trees overhead, sensing the weight of what they had accomplished. They had saved humanity from certain destruction. As they stood there, surrounded by the remnants of battle, Elias knew that their journey was far from over. There were still many mysteries to uncover and battles to be fought, but for now, at least they could rest easy knowing that they had triumphed against impossible odds. In the heart of the ancient forest, The battle raged on as Elias, Zara, Dr. Timekeeper, and a motley band of survivors fought against Agent Smith and his army of monstrous beasts. The air was thick with tension as each side pushed for victory. Elias summoned forth his powers, transforming into a fearsome dragon that soared above the battlefield. He unleashed a torrent of flames upon the enemy forces, incinerating scores of beasts and sending Agent Smith's troops scrambling for cover. Zara, armed with her sword, carved through the air, striking down enemies left and right. Her eyes blazed with determination as she fought to protect those she cared about. Dr. Timekeeper stood at their side, using her staff to manipulate time, slowing down the enemy's advance while speeding up their own attacks. Her hair whipped around her like a tempest as she focused on the fight. In the distance, Agent Smith watched the battle unfold with cold fury in his eyes. He summoned forth one final wave of beasts, his ultimate weapon, a massive, twisted creature that towered over everything else on the battlefield. Elias roared as he charged towards the abomination, his scales shimmering with power. He slammed into it with all his might, the impact sending shockwaves through the earth. The two titans grappled, clashing in a frenzy of roars and flames. Zara leaped into the air, her sword glowing bright as she plunged it into the creature's heart. It let out a final, agonized scream before collapsing to the ground, lifeless. The battlefield was still for a moment, then erupted in cheers as Elias and Zara's allies celebrated their victory. Agent Smith glared at them with hatred in his eyes, but there was nothing he could do now. His army lay defeated before him, and the last of his power had been spent. As the dust settled, Dr. Timekeeper approached Elias, her expression serious. "We must not forget what happened here," she said. "The hidden force will return, and we must be ready when they do." Elias nodded, a determined look on his face. "We won't let that happen again," he vowed. "Together, we can protect humanity from any threat." Tiad.